The A's are hot, winners of 6 of their last 8. The green and gold have been playing spirited baseball over the past month and are starting to make some noise in the competitive AL West. Tonight they send a hot pitcher to the hill in Jesse Chavez. Jesse's coming off a career-high 11 strikeout performance versus the Padres. The Rangers will counter with their hottest pitcher, Chichi Gonzalez. The rookie right-hander has been on a roll since his call-up in May. 2 hot teams, 2 hot pitchers. Under the heat of the Texas sun, it's the A's and the Rangers next.
Hey, it's a quick trip to Arlington for the A's. This is the kind of road trip we like. We're at Globe Life Park for game 1 of the 3-game series. It'll be Chichi Gonzalez taking them out for the Rangers against the A's' Jesse Chavez. So, a couple of AL West teams set to do battle from Arlington. It's the Oakland A's and the Texas Rangers coming up on Comcast Sportsnet, California. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Oakland A's baseball. Along with Ray Fossing, I'm Glenn Kuiper. It's hot, it's windy, it's a hitter's park, but nothing seems to bother Jesse Chavez lately. Ray, 6th best ERA in the American League.
You know, we're going to show a great start against the San Diego Padres, showing strikeouts, but how about this? The club scored 9 runs when he was on the mound. They ended up scoring 16, but he was outstanding pitching. He struck out at least 1 batter per inning, 11 total, struck out at the side of the first inning, and everything working, and plus scoring him some runs. What a great evening for Jesse Chavez. He wants to try to build on that, especially the offensive support. We know he's a great pitcher. It's just a matter of scoring some runs. He's going to win some games.
Now for the Rangers, Chichi Gonzalez, the youngster, making just his 5th major league start. He's been very impressive. A's saw him at the Coliseum, and they actually beat him.
1 run in the first inning. That's all he gave up because Scott Kazmir was just a little bit better. But the thing that impresses everybody about this young man is the way he pitches inside effectively. He gets strikeouts on pitches inside, right there, throwing the ball inside. But he's an accomplished pitcher, and he's so young. But I think the Rangers have found a very good pitcher to put in their rotation. And, of course, the A's hit him for the second time.
All right, so this should be a good pitching matchup tonight. And this is the 4th series of the year between the A's and the Rangers. When we come back to Globe Life Park, we're going to have lineups and first pitch on a hot night in Arlington.
California is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Taste the new black pepper cheeseburger today, only at Jack in the Box. And by Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places.
We are back at Globe Life Park, and we're just about set for Game 1 of this three-game series. The A's and the Texas Rangers. So Bob Melvin and his Athletics playing much better baseball as of late. They'll try to continue that here in Arlington. Game time weather for tonight. It's presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open daily. A warm 92 degrees, very breezy as always here at this ballpark. It's just kind of the way it is. But we've been here when it's been warmer. And the first time we were here was actually beautiful weather.
That's right.
So it's hot, but not an unbearable hot.
And, you know, Stephen Vogt once again took out the lineup card as the umpires are waiting for the Rangers to take the field. But the thing that when Stephen Vogt, and, you know, there's a little superstition, and of course that means the A's won last time, they won the last two. So Stephen Vogt. But when you take out a lineup card, you get the ground rules. And it's a new park coming in, and umpires were explaining all the ground rules. So now Stephen has to go back and make sure he remembers. And as a catcher, I'm sure he's going to remember them, but he has to go back and tell the manager and the rest of the players what the ground rules are for Globe Life Park, which it's kind of the same because this park's been here a long time, but the umpires do, and usually the home team who brings out the lineup card. We'll talk about the various nooks and crannies, whatever it might be, but they're fine. Maybe they're waiting for Beltre, as they were waiting for him to put out the lineup tonight, and maybe they're waiting for him to take the field, but they just did.
So the Rangers wearing the all whites tonight. A's in the all-road grays. So let's look at the lineup tonight for the Athletics. It starts with Billy Burns in center. Eric Sogard will hit second and play second. Ben Zobrist is in left. Josh Reddick in the cleanup spot. Billy Butler will DH and hit fifth. Ike Davis hits sixth and plays first base. Then it's Brett Laurie at third. Josh Phegley the catcher, and Marcus Simeon at short.
And it is young right-hander Chichi Gonzalez on the mound. His second start against the Athletics, making just his fifth on this young season, and we were very impressed with him in Oakland whenever he faced the Athletics in the final game of the series. He walked Billy Burns to lead off the game. Ben Zobrist got an RBI single to score him, and then after that, nothing. But Scott Kazmir and Evan Scribner combined on a one-hit shutout. And otherwise, this young man who gave up his first run of his young season of his career, Major League level, was against the Athletics in that first inning, but he's been great. And he throws all four different types of pitches, including a couple of different fastballs. And in fact, as we talked in our open, he likes to pitch inside, and he does it effectively.
The defense behind Chichi Gonzalez. Joey Gallo is in left field tonight. Leonis Martin in center. Ryan Rua is in right. Adrian Beltre just off the disabled list about an hour ago. So he's back, and the Rangers are thrilled about that. Elvis Andrus is at short. Brookman Odor back from the minor leagues is at second. Mitch Moreland is at first, and Robinson Trinos is your catcher. So Beltre had a thumb injury and was out for a fair amount of time, and that's why the lineup did indeed come out late. They waited. He took batting practice. He said he felt fine, and forget that rehab assignment. I'm ready to play now. So Beltre is in there, and he is a huge part of the Rangers team, and I mean huge. So they're thrilled.
And as we know, there's a 1:30 bus that comes to the park that's a few hours before the game, but they come out for a reason. That's to get the lineup, go over all the matchups. But the lineup was barely in the A's hands by 5:30.
About the time the Rangers finished batting practice, right?
Well, that's pretty much Beltre, and they were holding off. But I know from the A's standpoint, they were looking for a lineup about mid-afternoon.
Quick 0-2 to Billy Burns. This is how Beltre got hurt. And he did it sliding, and it was his thumb. So the left thumb jammed it into the ground, and a fairly significant injury. And he knew it right away. 0-2 pitch to Burns is inside.
Well, there's some familiarity, of course. Beltre, no doubt about him. But as far as the A's seeing Chichi Gonzalez, and of course he the same against them, and he did pitch well after the run of the first inning.
That one rolled just foul. Well, you said it best, Ray. You and I talked about him off air, and it's the fact that I don't know that his stuff is going to wow you,
but he really pitches like a veteran. And I think the thing to watch with him is his ability to pitch inside. And not just try to pitch inside, but he pitches effectively inside.
And he does get strikeouts, and there are pitchers who will pitch inside for effect, and he will do that as well, but he can also get the strikes on the inside. Jerry Phegley wrote a very good article on the Morning Times here about this young man, and he talked about the fact that if you were a radar gun scout, you wouldn't sign him. And I thought that was a very valid point, just like you talked about. It's not a wow with a radar gun, but he knows how to pitch, and there's a lot of guys that can pitch that way and pitch effectively, but they're not going to blow guys away. Scott Kazmir has become that type of pitcher now after being able to blow guys away.
1-2 pitch is hit foul off the facing of the Rangers dugout. And Chichi Gonzalez was a first-round draft pick just in 2013. And so you see he uses them all and throws strikes with them all, but is not a strikeout pitcher. And I don't know that he wants to be. This one's pop foul back.
Well, this was the first inning in Oakland, the Thursday afternoon, and this was it. A base hit to right field, and that would score the only run that the A's would put on the board until the 8th inning, when they scored 6. And then Scott Kazmir did not come out for the 9th inning. Scribner threw 9 pitches, and the A's won that game and won the series.
2-2 now to Burns, Sogard to foul, and then Zobrist.
And Scott Kazmir can rest this 3 games here because he pitched great against the Rangers and then also against the Angels over the weekend.
So 2-2, and the pitch to Burns is rolled foul. There's your umpires. That's Barrett calling balls and strikes. Dan Iasonia at first, Gabe Morales at second, Dale Scott, the crew chief, is down at third, and there's Dale.
And meanwhile, the 10th pitch getting ready to be thrown by Gonzalez just to the leadoff hitter, who started 0-2. So Billy Burns doing his job. Torino's trying to figure out what we're going to do. How about a fastball in?
And he got it in, and it's fouled again. So good battle here to start the game.
Well, you like to see this. Of course, Billy Burns, this is the type of pitcher, and we don't know what's going to happen to the bat, but it's because Gonzalez is not overpowering with the mid-90s fastball, that Billy Burns can stay back and just foul off those pitches that probably are going to be strikes otherwise.
This one tapped back to Gonzalez quickly to first, and that's the first out of the ball game. So an 11 pitch at bat ends in a ground out. But outside of getting on base, Burns did his job. So 1 away, and that'll bring up Sogard. Sogard hitting .255 with no home runs and 18 RBIs. He was 2 for 7 in that series against the Angels. Sogard playing second base tonight, and Ben Zobrist is out in left field. Stephen Vogt not in the lineup. So another quick 0-2. Gonzalez got ahead of Burns 0-2. Same thing here with Sogard.
And the thing that I'm sure the Rangers are very impressed with Gonzalez, that he really commands all of his pitches. I mean, he can throw any of his pitches any time, as he did to Burns, and now the 0-1 slider to Sogard in the strike zone.
And this one's popped up. Shallow left. Andrus out, Gallo in, and Andrus makes the catch for the second out. Well, and Ray, he's not really going to throw much more than 91, 92 miles an hour. He's 23 years old. Here's again, the 23rd overall pick just a couple of years ago. Oral Roberts.
Drafted in 13, but I was trying to remember who he was drafted by out of high school, and his coach convinced him to go to Oral Roberts because of the pitching coach who was there. He was not as high as, of course, it was by the Rangers, but that college experience definitely helped him. And the first pitch to Zobrist outside with a good sinker instead of one that he could pull into the hole like he did in Oakland.
That one stays outside. 1-1 the count. Gonzalez numbers in AAA this year before he was called up.
3-5 with a 4.15 ERA in 8 starts. Right side, Moreland has it. Couples to Gonzalez, and that's a 3-up, 2-down top of the first for Chichi Gonzalez. Bottom of the first coming up. Red Odor is back. Joey Gallo's in left. Prince Fielder's the DH. Beltre back from the DL. Moreland, Andrus, Martin, Rua, and Chirinos.
Jesse Chavez starting against the Rangers. He did have a relief appearance against them early in the season in the opening homestand for Coliseum, but on the season making his 12th start of the season, looking for his 4th win, the 3rd coming the last start against San Diego. 78 2/3 innings pitched for this right-hander, and pitched against them last year here on April the 20th, beat them as he gave just 1 hit that is in 7 innings pitched. So we'd like to duplicate that, especially looks like Gonzalez is going to have a pretty good night himself.
First pitch to Odor, up and away. Rougned Odor leading things off. Been an interesting season already for this young man. Last year he had a very good rookie season at the tender age of 20. So he was the opening day starting second baseman, and all things were fine until he hit 144 in 29 games and went back to the minor leagues. He was down there for a little while. Now he is back and swinging the bat a little bit better, but it shows you how tough it is to be good and stay good at the big league level. And he's very young. He's only 21 now. And that one's laced to center and a base hit. So leadoff single for Rougned Odor. Defensively for the A's, looks like this: Zobrist, Burns, Reddick in the outfield, Laurie, Simeon, Sogar, Davis on the infield, with Phegley doing the catching.
Two very good catchers tonight that can shut down the running game. Chirinos, of course, for the Rangers, and we've seen Josh Phegley do it pretty consistently. So you have to think if either club does any running, it's going to be more of a hit and run.
So Joey Gallo steps in. Not to talk about Joey Gallo. He's one of the big prospects in baseball. We saw him in Oakland. He had a good series in Oakland, but he has really struggled since then. And he rolls over this one toward Sogard, who spins, throws to second for 1. And the A's will just get that out. And Gallo aboard on a fielder's choice.
Well, Sogard just getting the lead runner, and Simeon making sure as the leg got him by Odor, and might as well stop at that point and try to make a throw.
So Stephen Vogt not in the lineup tonight. Got a bit of a sore elbow. I guess they're calling it tennis elbow, Ray. And
And good news, if there is any good news, it's his left elbow, not his throwing elbow, which is his right arm. But still, it's his lead arm as a hitter, and that can also affect a player. Whereas any injury is going to affect him.
So the A's are hoping that he'll be back in there tomorrow. Oh, 1-1 to Prince Fielder, having a terrific season. You saw the numbers all over the leaderboards. And sitting on 299 career home runs.
I'll still say one of the biggest things that happened for the Rangers for Prince Fielder, Mitch Moreland, is that Fielder said, I'll DH. And, you know, it takes a special person to DH because I know Billy Butler's talked about it, guys who, unless your name's Edgar Martinez, now the hitting coach for the Mariners, but it's not easy. But Prince Fielder said probably could do it better than Mitch Moreland. Let Moreland play first. He's a very good first baseman, as is Prince Fielder, but Fielder also likes to hit.
Yeah, we're not talking about a 37, 38-year-old player either. I mean, Prince Fielder is 31 years old.
But he wants to play every day anyway, so DHing allows him to do that. He could also play first if you want to give Moreland a day off or flip-flop a little bit.
Well, here's some interesting numbers, right? In the, is that called a strike?
No, the right shoulder of Lance Barrett did, though. watch the right shoulder, and he will tell you what he thought about doing. And kept the Velcro attached to his side. Could have been called if the target was outside.
And there's a strike. But the 5 years before last year, the games played for Prince Fielder, 162, 161, 162, 162, 162. How about that?
And then what,
that is impressive.
And then neck surgery.
42 last year.
Joey Gallo just told the world he's going to be running, which is 3-2, so it really doesn't matter. But that's the type of season he is having. Of course, opposite field hitter, and that's why the A's actually shading him to left field. He's a big power hitter, can hit the ball into the seats in right field, but he also can go opposite field.
Runner goes, balls hit foul. And you wonder, Ray, if, and I think we've both noticed that he is hitting the ball to left field more this year.
Right.
And that it can't be a coincidence then that his batting average is 340.
Yeah. Stand on the ball a lot longer, and there you have it. Actually, almost the same number of hits to left field as he has to right field. 40 to center. So you're looking at up the middle, opposite field. He has 64 hits. Pretty impressive.
Runner goes again. Check swing, and the pitch is called a ball.
Wow.
Phegley wants them to ask as there's a close pitch, and Prince Fielder checked his swing, but Lance Barrett is not going to ask. Phegley is doing his best to negotiate, but it's not working.
Well, it looked like a strike too. So I mean, that's why Phegley threw. And you know, you combine a check swing plus a pitch that looked like a strike anyway. And Phegley thought it was a strike enough that he was going to throw through. I think more of a strike, and we've already seen Lance Barrett get the yips a little bit as far as almost calling a strike that he didn't, and then doesn't call one that he should have. It's not a good start.
So here's Beltre, first game back, up and in to Beltre. .257, 6 home runs, 18 RBIs for Beltre. Fouls that one right at home plate. See, Beltre, the decision to put him on the active roster came so late that his name isn't even in the notes.
That's right.
So we can't give you any goody notes on Adrian Beltre.
Except that he's pretty good.
You know that he's got 401 careers.
And as you said, he was so good that he said to heck with a rehab.
But I think he's important to the lineup, Ray, because you know, you're thinking Gallo's left-handed,
right.
Fielder's left-handed, Moreland's left-handed, Martine's left-handed, and when Josh Hamilton comes back, he's left-handed. So they really need a power right-handed bat in the middle of those guys, and who better than what he brings?
Exactly.
So he really balances out the lineup. Outside, and now it's 3-1. And Moreland is the on-deck hitter.
Well, it'd be great to get a ground ball, not from Moreland. You'd not like to see him leading off next inning and get a ground ball from Beltre. Try to get 2 to get out of the inning.
Beltre rolls it slowly foul. Laurie picks it up. A couple steps into foul territory.
In fact, some of the Rangers, I know Eric Nadell was saying in the radio side, he said that they figured at minimum it's going to be another 3 or 4 days, and maybe even by All-Star break before Beltre came back. But as he came in today and said, I'm okay, and that's the reason the delay in putting out the lineup. And any notes?
Three-two runners not going, and the ball's hit towards Simeon, who backhands, throws to second for 1, and that's the out the A's will get. Sogard looked to third to see if Gallo maybe would round the bag a little bit too far, which is a smart thing to do if you're Sogard. Look that way. So another fielder's choice. So first and third, 2 outs now.
Well, in fact, he had to go to his right backhand. All the while, Sogard realized it's going to be tough to double up Beltre, and with the hard slide of Curtis Fielder coming in anyway, get the sure out at second, and get the chance of Jesse Chavez getting out. Tough hitter Mitch Moreland.
Moreland having a nice season. 294, 8 home runs, 33 runs batted in. And he spent some time on the disabled list. Right around 15 days. He had a little bone chip surgery from his left elbow, so he missed a little bit of time. One now to Mitch Moreland. The Rangers are hoping that maybe Moreland for the first time showing that he could be a middle of the order hitter. Been in the big leagues since 2010. Good changeup by Jesse Chavez.
I remember they acquired Prince Fielder. He was pretty much out.
Yeah.
But good sinker away from the power hitter. Justin Chavez has the sinker away. You can throw the changeup or the fastball inside. You can throw the cutter inside. A lot of different options, especially hitting the count 1 and 2.
And Moreland fouls it straight back. So as always, Ray, in this ballpark with the weather, it can be tough on a starting pitcher. You really don't want to have too many of those high stress innings where you throw 20-25 pitches, because it can wear you down. Gallo at third, Beltre at first, and the ball's hit hard to Sogard. Nice big hop. He's got it, side retired. So a couple of runners stranded for the Rangers, and we're scoreless after 1 in Arlington. It got a little scary. 2 outs in the ninth. Johnny Giavotella, the deep drive off Tyler Clippard, just comes up short. It was Clippard's second consecutive 5-out save. The A's won the game by a final score of 3-2. So we all held our breath a little bit. Talked to Stephen Vogt after the game. He thought it may be going out as well.
Well, the best part was watching Clippard kind of peek around after he thought it was gone. And let me take a quick peek, and then saw it fold under it. And can of corn. That was a great little line under there.
So Clippard on Saturday, he got the save, and it was a 4-out save. He threw 28 pitches. And then that final out we just showed you was part of the 5-out save, and he threw 34 pitches. And that is why he is probably not available tonight.
And with the off day yesterday, so it really gives him 2 full days plus, because it was a day game on Sunday, a scary day.
Reddick slaps one to left field. And Gallo got a good jump and takes those long strides, and Gallo grabs it, and that's the first out. So a little short on bullpen guys right now, but we hope Jesse Chavez doesn't need anybody for a while. Plus,
got him.
Nobody's really hanging out. I mean, I know all the relievers get along, but they're just kind of.
Jesse Chavez, Scott Emerson. But they do have a way to walk from the clubhouse back, I think. They don't have to walk across the field, but maybe they've just decided to stay in the clubhouse.
Big hop to Andrus. And Butler is retired, so Chichi Gonzalez has retired the first 5 A's hitters.
Well, somebody has to go down there because Clippard's not available.
We need somebody down.
So the A's getting the same situation. It's not going to be Clippard. He may be the only one that stays in the clubhouse, in the dugout.
Well, that bullpen.
Evan Scribner, yeah,
You need sunglasses out there at this point. Although there'll be sun's going to go down here soon, but that bullpen, it's still not a great bullpen, but it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yes, it is.
It used to be what do you want to call it? About half that size, and it was just kind of a.
Well, and you threw kind of from the fence back.
Yeah. Now you throw crossways.
And remember a couple of years ago when Jesse Chavez took and made a makeshift canopy because it was so hot. And Thursday afternoon in the series finale, it's going to be a scorcher out there. Actually, I think those guys were tucked back into the left side of the bullpen as they were back now in full force.
Rolled slowly to first, and that's a very easy inning for Chichi Gonzalez. So 6 up, 6 down for the young right-hander, and there's no score after 1.5. Sportsnet California is brought to you by PG&E. Together, building a better California. Always good eats in Texas. That's the real deal there. You want brisket? We got the spot for you.
That's a heck of a sandwich. You just throw that on a couple pieces of bread.
See you later. See you in the 4th inning. So here's Elvis Andrus hitting in the 6th spot tonight. First pitch is bounced fair down the 3rd base line. It's going to roll into the corner. Zobrist picks it up, and Elvis Andrus, on the first pitch he sees, has a double. So for Elvis Andrus, it's his 10th double of the year.
He hit hard in front of home plate and has a tendency to bounce. See where Laurie playing even with the bag over his head down in the corner, and did not hit the sidewall to maybe hold Andrus to a single. Instead, down in the corner where Zobrist had to retrieve it.
So in the first inning, Odor had a leadoff single, and here in the second, Andrus with a leadoff double. So here's Leonys Martin. Martin hitting .239 with 5 home runs, 22 RBIs. He had spent a lot of time in the leadoff spot for the Rangers this year, but struggling some offensively, so now dropped down in the order. He's a very good bunter. He tried it there, but there's something you have to watch for with him.
Bannister and Steve Buechele, his bench coach. Buechele, of course, longtime 3rd baseman for the Rangers. Have been managed minor leagues. Now the bench coach for Jeff Bannister. Probably a future manager.
Martin pulls it towards second, so he does his job, and you could almost tell, Ray, he was sort of leaning out there a little bit, trying to hook it, and the pitch was maybe middle of the plate toward the outside half, and he did it the right way.
That's why he bunted the way he did and kind of hooked the bunt. But this time, you're right. You open up and you go top end. This is probably the only time you want to top end a ball that's outside and try to pull it instead of going opposite field, and that's to advance the runner to third, where the infield now will play in and hope for another ground ball. Jesse Chavez, 3 ground ball outs in the first inning, 1 here, and with Rua back. Did not see him in Oakland last time these two clubs faced each other.
First pitch to Rua, the tall right fielder. He hurt his heel in the Rangers home opener this year on April 10th. So played just a handful of games and then was injured. It was like a heel fracture that he had to have surgery on. To the backstop. And coming home, and Jesse Chavez did not go home to cover home, and Andrus scores. The ball bounced back to Phegley. I don't know that there would have been a play at the plate, but the ball did come quite a ways back to Phegley.
Well, he's down, the pitch is up, and just did not react quickly enough. But regardless, this is a hard area behind home plate. That's brick, and it's going to bounce back. It may be a little bit inconsistent, but this ball comes back with Jesse not there. And I think Elvis Andrus saw that Jesse was not going to be there, so he slowed down a little bit.
So it goes as a pass ball, and the Rangers have a 1-0 lead. So kind of a frustrating way to give up a early run. Rua takes on the inside corner first strike.
I think especially for Jesse Chavez, who being a ground ball pitcher does have a chance to induce a ground ball to keep the runner at third.
The 3-1 pitch is cued foul. In fact, Ryan Rua was in the lineup in all 4 of the games in that season opening series against the Athletics in Oakland. He started all 4 games. And then after that, they came home for their home opener, and that's when he got hurt.
He also saves Bob Melvin and Kurt Young.
Strike 3 called
on the outside corner, and Rua can't believe it.
Well, Kat, the one thing about home plate umpire Lance Barrett, he has a huge angle. Look where he sets up. And so if you're looking at that much of an angle, that's the same way the Prince fielder on the left side. It's such an angle that it's hard to see the outside part of the plate. And really, a lot of times, and I've talked to umpires, it becomes a guessing game because they really can't see. And it's a slot, and that's what we've been told, that they set up in such a slot right there where he sets up. But look at the angle to the outside part of the plate. And again, I'm not saying anything out of school. I've had umpires tell me that, when I'm set up on the inside like that, I just am not able to see clearly what the pitch is on the outside, whether it's on the plate or not.
1-0 to Chirinos. 2-0 to Chirinos.
But to finish what I started to say, it was Ra who got the base hit in the 8th inning with Sonny Gray on the mound opening night. Sonny had a no-hitter, and he got the base hit, and there's a sigh of relief from the A's because they had an 8-0 lead, but the pitch count was getting high for Sonny Gray on opening night. They did not want him to exceed, probably 100. But so the base hit, while you hope for a no-hitter, that was a big sigh of relief. One hit shutout by Sonny Gray in the opening.
So 3-1 to Chirinos, hitting .201 with 6 home runs and 24 RBIs. And that wouldn't call the ball, and it's a 2-out walk.
If you're a hitter, you better not leave the box too quickly. Just kind of wait. Jesse Chavez, his control usually is so good that he does not walk batters, and he's already walked 2.
He got 5 days rest tonight. Interesting.
It's called consistency. They want the consistency.
And nothing you can really do about it with the day off like the A's had yesterday. Tapped foul by Odor, who lined a single to center field to open up the bottom of the first.
Well, really the only thing a team can do, if they don't do it, and that is skip somebody. Usually if your fifth starter, you might skip, but most clubs will look at an off day as an opportunity to give an extra day to a starting pitcher. And in the case of Chavez, does seem like it's the best thing for him.
Swing and a miss by Odor, pitch down and in, and it's 0-2. So pitch number 40 coming up from Jesse Chavez. He had 23 pitches in the first inning. Defense fairly straight up alignment, although Simeon shifted to his left some, in the outfield a little bit toward right center, but not a lot. This one's hit to the gap in left center, and that's trouble. Burns picks it up. Here comes Chirinos, saying they're going to hold him at third, and Odor has his second hit.
Well, good hitters will hit mistakes, and Odor just got a mistake. He had some pretty good pitches, but this left up a fastball that just ran away, but his belt's high, and Odor, good job of getting the ball to left field, but even better for Billy Burns to get to the ball with his speed. I don't think Chirinos even thought about scoring, unless he's that. He was not running hard to second, but almost just conceding that third base was going to be it. But Burns a good job of cutting the ball off in left center.
So here's Gallo. Gallo with that big swing, and that is a mighty swing, I got to tell you. You can see why he hits home runs to very deep parts of ballparks. I mean, that is a power swing. Wow. You're going to have to live with the strikeouts, but the power is at a different level. He's had 63 at-bats this year. He's got 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, and he's got 29 strikeouts. So nearly half the time you're struck out. And he hits this one high in the air to right center. Burns has got enough room, and he makes the catch. So a run
and a couple runners stranded for the Rangers, so they lead 1-0 after 2.
And other former A's players for the 2016 Oakland Athletics Fantasy Camp, held from January the 15th to the 21st at the A's new spring training facility in Mesa, Arizona. Get out of the stands and onto the field. Create lasting memories with former A's greats. For more details, go to hendersonbaseball.com, or you can call 509-993-7338. And if you want to put the www in front, you can do it. Sure. Right. All you have to do is put Henderson Baseball, because it will go straight to World Wide Web.
Rangers leading 1-0. As Chichi Gonzalez has retired the first 6 in this ballgame. He faces Laurie, Phegley, and Simeon in the top of the 3rd.
It's making just his 5th start, but it looks like Gonzalez tries to nibble, knowing that he can always throw a strike.
Well, that's a pretty good way to go about it, right?
I was just thinking exactly, because I mean, he goes nibble, trying to get a chase. He doesn't get it, and he throws a little bit of a cutter.
Sure.
2-0, and gets a foul ball. But it looks like he can command the strike zone pretty much anytime he wants. And the only problem he might have is throwing too many pitches, trying to get things like that to happen.
He pitches, and this may sound a little silly, Ray, but he pitches the way you're supposed to pitch. Right. He works fairly quickly.
Right.
He throws strikes, lets his defense play behind him. Doesn't seem to worry about strikeouts too much.
And there's a pitch inside, maybe for effect. We'll see what he does on the 2-2 if he goes back outside. But that's the thing we noticed in Oakland, how he's able to pitch inside effectively and really command both sides of the plate.
Setting up outside. He made a good pitch there. So you saw in and then away, and Laurie, a couple of foul balls.
Always important for a catcher to watch the hitter's feet. And again, Laurie just maybe thinking enough about inside that it just opens up enough, and that's why the pitch outside becomes more effective.
Tap toward Beltre, who scoops it and throws out Laurie. 1 out. Like that time, Gonzalez just threw a little two-seam, a little sink to it.
Well, he was want to make sure he didn't go to 3-2, and any kind of movement is going to be beneficial for a pitcher. In the case of a ground ball pitcher, pretty good infielder, especially the Gold Glover at 3rd. Not a bad formula.
So here's Phegley with 1 out. Inside corner strike. Phegley hitting .287 with 3 home runs and 10 RBIs. And this one to the right side. Odor Ranges to his left, scoops it up, and that's the second out. So I got 6 of 8 ground ball outs. Does that look about right?
That's exactly right. 2 in each inning so far.
So that'll bring up Marcus Semien hitting .263, 6 home runs and 17 RBIs. Semien in that series against the Angels was 1 for 12 over the weekend. Broken bat, right center, and that's going to be a hit. So that's the first hit for the Athletics. It's a 2-out single by Marcus Semien. Sounded like a broken bat.
It sure was, and you canceled the press conference. But that's you like to see that happen. I was thinking of Rich Harden following the All-Star break when he was pitching for the A's, and he pitched against the Rangers. They had no chance because of his fastball, and it was a broken bat hit up the middle that ended his perfect game. And this is only the 3rd inning, but it is the first hit, first base runner for the Athletics, even though this young man, Billy Burns, had an 11-pitch at bat to lead off the game.
Semien straightened out in the dirt a little bit around the area where his lead gets to. Beltre a step on the grass, and Burns slices one down the left field line, fair. Gallo gets there quickly and gets it back in. So Burns with the single to left. And the hitting streak moves to 13 for Burns. Just slapped it the other way.
Gonzalez pitching out of the stretch, elevated a pitch, something he had not done in the first 8 batters. But Billy Burns just slashed it left field, finally realized where the ball was, but Gallo shading him that direction. And able to keep Semien at second. And I think Billy Burns is thinking about 2, but had to stop because Semien could not advance.
Well, during the 13-game hitting streak, Burns has 21 hits total. Keeps racking up the hits. Here's Sogard. Sogard, center field. Andrus out, can't get it. And the throw to third, and now they're going to have Burns in a rundown. Semien comes in to score, and Burns and Odor collide, and Burns is out. It's Sogard with the RBI single that scores Marcus Semien to tie up this game at 1 apiece. So, bottom of the 3rd coming up. A's 1, Rangers 1. So Eric Sogard with an RBI single.
Matter of 3 pitches, 3 consecutive hits, and Eric Sogard lofted one to center. Great play by Martin, because he may have thought about going to home. Billy Burns rounded the bag and smartly stopped, because he was going to be out at third anyway, and then the rundown ensued and a little bit of a collision at second base. But Sogard, hey, get him to pitch out of the stretch a little more often, because
we learned something.
Gonzalez, my, it's amazing. As soon as he pitched out of the stretch, he started hitting him.
Jesse Chavez with a shutdown inning opportunity.
Burns with his speed, the ball not hit that hard, and thinking that maybe he could make it to third base, but Martin, an outstanding center fielder, and he played it very well there. And I thought maybe initially, with Martin charging the very strong arm, that Billy Burns is going to make sure he kind of drew a throw in case there was a play at the plate. But Semien was running hard to score. Burns realized he was going to be out and tried to get him to run down, but the Rangers played it perfect.
So 1-2 the count to Prince Fielder. He'll be followed by Beltre and Moreland. It's hit high down the left field line with foul.
See, Josh Phegley gave a high target that time. He was expecting to pitch a foul. The one that got away resulted in a pass ball. It was a little bit different, but typically catcher down low, reach up, a little bit difficult. But it's twice it's happened to Phegley in the last week.
So 1-2. Prince Fielder walked in the first inning. And that one very close. 2-2. 11 home runs and 47 RBIs for Prince Fielder. Taps that one up the first base line, foul. Pitch number 50 coming up for Jesse Chavez. And it's not foul. Almost like a I'm going to spoil this pitch kind of swing and try to get a little something better.
And really, Prince Fielder in his at-bats acting like a leadoff hitter, is fouling off tough pitches instead of a big power hitter that might be swinging hard, but he is definitely controlling his swing a lot more than he did, especially with the Brewers. Brewers, he was just flailing everything. Travel out of every place.
And in Milwaukee, he of all people did not need to pull it to hit a ball. I mean, that ballpark is as live as any park in baseball. Count remains 2-2.
Well, as you said, something that Jesse Chavez doesn't need is what's happening now. 10 pitch at bat leading off this inning. At least a 10 pitch at bat.
And that one is hit hard. Sogard, what a play. Gets up, throws to first, and that's out number 1. Terrific play by Eric Sogard.
So I think we know that Prince Fielder would like to abolish the shift, huh? And Sogard, look where he's playing, and still had to make a great play. In the outfield, that ball was blistered on the 10th pitch, and Sogard, I mean, at least falling down, it's soft. Well, it's in the outfield, at least in shallow right field, and very demoralizing for a hitter to hit a ball that, under normal circumstances, before shifts, would have been a base hit. But a lot of players could say that now.
Beltre over the mound. Semien charges, scoops, throws, 2 outs.
And there's a play that Marcus Semien did a great job charging it, knowing that it's going to have to be the short hop. But watch as it comes in, scoops it right there, puts the glove down, bends over to put the glove down to make the play on the short hop. And on the same motion, throwing out Adrian Beltre. Go from 10 pitches, 1 hitter, to 1 pitch, the next hitter, which is nice.
So here's Moreland with 2 outs. Moreland grounded out to end the first inning. He did that with a couple of runners on.
Breaking ball for a strike.
Well, unfortunately, with this pitch count, Jesse Chavez now at 55. Bullpen is going to be used tonight. And typically, you come to Arlington, it will be a bullpen's game. And it'll be the 27th and hardest out you'll ever get in your life.
Yep.
The shift for Moreland, except in the outfield, they're shading him more opposite field or pretty much straight up, except for Burns slightly in left center and Reddick slightly in right center.
High fastball. That's where Phegley wanted it. So 1-2 the count. Moreland fouls it right at home plate to keep the count at 1-2.
Fastball inside, shook it to a changeup.
More action for Sogard. Another tough hop. He handles it, and the side is retired. So nice work defensively by Eric Sogard, and that's a 3-up, 3-down inning for Jesse Chavez.
June 27th, that's this Saturday. This popular post-game event features players sharing their testimonials as well as a performance by Donnie Moore and the Radical Reality Team, one that you do not want to miss. Remember, you must purchase a special ticket to participate in the festivities. For more information, go to athletics.com/faith. Ben Zobrist to be there. We know for sure Billy Burns. Players sharing their testimonials, and Donnie Moore, if you've never seen the Radical Reality Team, be there. Oh. How about that?
So Zobrist will take it, and a little miscommunication between Gonzalez and Beltre.
You know, Beltre's a Gold Glover. He handles that ball normally, but I think he thought it was going to be Gonzalez taking it himself. Gonzalez gets off the mound very nicely and goes after it aggressively and then pulls up. And I think that's what fooled Beltre. And then Zobrist on a check swing, smelling a base hit and getting down the line quickly without a throw. So the A's will take that.
So hit number 4 for the A's against Chichi Gonzalez. And here's Reddick. Reddick to the fly ball to left field in the second inning.
I remember the game that Jesse Hahn pitched, and when he pitched exclusively out of the windup, 1, 2, 3 innings, got in a stretch against San Diego. It just seemed like he was in trouble. Got out of the jams 3 times, as a matter of fact, twice with 2 runners on base.
This one's well hit to left field, but Gallo's right there. So Reddick is 0 for 2.
But the same thing tonight for Gonzalez, it seems, that he is not the same pitcher pitching out of the stretch. Reddick twice going hard to left field as they're shifting him to the right side, but hitting nicely to the opposite field, but right to the left field.
So with one out, Butler steps up. Butler grounded out to the shortstop in the second inning. A little bit inside. Hayes come into tonight's action with a 31-41 record. They're playing better. They've won 6 out of their last 8. Trying to start the climb in the AL West.
Now for the second time in the last week, they're trying to get into single digits under 500. Right now at 10 as they've won the last 2.
Inside again, 2-0. Much better this month than 11-8 June after a very difficult month of May. So plenty of room for improvement, and we're starting to see it a little bit. Butler toward Andrus, who gets a big hop out at second. Odor to first, and they got him on a very close play at first. Rougned Odor is still standing at second base, and a lot of the Rangers are staying at their positions as the out call would make it the third out, but nobody seems to think Butler was out except Dan Iasonia, the first base umpire.
Well, especially with Odor at second base throwing off balance. Oh, wow.
And he was indeed safe.
Yeah.
So
Dale Scott put the headset on. Dan Iasonia come in and probably see how late and bad you were with that call. But he had a slight hesitation, delayed with his call, and Billy Butler couldn't believe it. And Billy's not the fastest, but definitely knows he got the right foot down. He's crossed the bag before Moreland caught the ball.
This should take about 10 seconds.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
The one on Sunday took over 5 minutes.
5 minutes and 14 seconds, which is the longest probably ever.
I think Dan Iasonia, who's looking up at the board right now, so he's like, oh man, how did I miss that? But he's looking up at the screen, and they are showing it right now. They're showing just about the same replay we are, and it really is not terribly close. So Iasonia missed it, but it's all straightened out as Butler is called safe. Call is overturned. All is well. So Butler at first base now with 2 outs for Ike Davis.
Well, the thing was, the play was slow developing, and that's what made it surprising, even with Billy Butler not fleet of foot. But Odor off balance throw, not a lot on the throw, and plus really Billy Butler went after a pitch that if he had taken probably would have been ball 3.
Yeah, it was down
and away. He tried to roll over on it, and that's a struggling hitter who tries to do that.
So the first pitch to Ike Davis is outside, 1-0. But getting back to some of those records, the A's with a pretty good month of June. They're 16-22 against the AL West, 6-4 against the Rangers. Remember, the A's came here in early May and took 2 out of 3. Yeah. That was their first trip in.
And Ike Davis didn't like the last call.
No, that did not look like a strike.
And see, managers can see up and down, north and south, and it's been questionable from the get-go, unfortunately.
1-1 pitch is hit hard to Beltre, who was playing at the shortstop spot, side retired. So a leadoff hit for Zobrist, nothing else for the A's. Bottom of the 4th coming up. We're tied at 1.
questions live on Facebook. Log on to facebook.com/CSN Bay Area to submit your questions. Brody will be answering them over the course of the A's Rangers game. Hop in the chat at facebook.com/CSN Bay Area.
And don't not let him marinate one of the questions.
He's a marinator. Our good friend Brody Brazil is a little bit of a worrier and a marinator.
That's not a good combo.
That's not a good combo. No. Takes these losses hard.
Because if he takes a loss and marinates it overnight, then that's not
that's
good.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's not.
Then it's overdone. You don't want to overdo a loss.
No.
1-1 the count to Andrus. He'll be followed by Martin and Rua.
Should be like a lot of other people. Just let it go.
Let it go. When it's done, it's done.
That's right. Cannot do anything about it. Don't even think about it. Let's just go get them tomorrow.
Andrus had a double and he scored in the second inning. Some of the numbers for the Rangers this year, they're 37 and 33. They're 3 games back of the first place Astros. Their interesting note, Ray, is that they've been a very good road team this year. They're 22 and 17. Not great at home. They're 15 and 16 at home.
There are a few clubs like that that are not playing well in their home parks.
And it was actually a lot worse. They have won 9 of their last 11 at home just to get to 15 and 16. So they've been. So think about that, Ray. May 4th is the day after we left here.
That's right.
Simeon scoops, throws, one away.
And a broken bat. This time, though, to the shortstop. Yeah, that's a good point because the Rangers, like every team, of course, the Astros running away with the division, and all of a sudden, the Rangers had that month 12 games over 500. They're back in the thick of it, and it's going to be an interesting division all the way to the wire. And there was an article in the A's Clips today where John Hickey, one of the beat writers, had mentioned about Billy Beane, because a lot of speculation about the team with the record and would the A's start trading players. But I like what Billy said. There's a lot of baseball left, and they've had success in the past, this ball club has, in playing well in the second half. And you don't dismantle a team when you have so much baseball remaining.
And that one hit to Sogard, and it's out number 2.
And especially if you have the starting pitching that the A's do have, and bullpen's going to get better. Sonny Gray, of course, the 8 wins that he has. He'll be pitching again in the series. But, I mean, this is a good starting staff. They're pitching deep in the ball games. They've got some very good numbers. Jesse Hahn pitching well. Scott Kazmir, a great job on Sunday. Kendall Graveman. Of course, all the starters stick together, talk baseball as they watch this game and watch Jesse pitch.
Well, it's game number 73, so I think it's really too early to tell anything one way or the other. You do have the starters, and that's a pretty good place to start. Offense has been pretty good. I mean, the offense is 3rd in the league in runs. Only the Blue Jays and the Yankees have scored more runs than the A's. Here's Ryan Rua. He takes a strike at 7-2. Check this out, Ray. Watch the first pitch to Martina. Watch where it is. Now it's low, right? Yeah. It's called a strike. He thinks it's low. But the next pitch, same spot, and he's got to swing at it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what a hitter is thinking.
Right. They force him, yeah.
I mean, he's thinking, listen, I didn't think that was a strike, but I don't want to look at another one and have it called a strike. He swings at it, he grounds out, and he goes back to the dugout, and he's hacked off.
Well, pitch locations will force it.
Left field, Zobrist back, and Zobrist in front of the wall reaches up to make the catch. Side retired. So 7 in a row retired by Jesse Chavez, and we're on to the 5th. It's a 1-1 game. California is brought to you by Prism. Now your team can collaborate at a whole new level with video walls from Prism. Learn how at prism.com. Hey, it's the making of a boomstick. Remember the boomstick hot dog? Well, they still got it here. 2 feet long. There's a hot dog underneath that other mess of cheese and chili, and they're not done yet. $28 is what the boomstick will cost you. And if you dare to take it on by yourself, we wish you the best of luck. It's something, I tell you. The boomstick.
Well, that gentleman is taking it on by himself, right? Because you got nachos to his left, you've got nachos to the right, and in the middle is the boomstick.
Stuck in the middle with you.
Well, you got actually 3 nachos and 1 eating the boomstick.
Well, if you need a fork to eat a hot dog, that pretty much tells you all you need to know. 1 out here in the top of the 5th inning. If you want to get a little more healthy, we can go bacon on a stick. It's good eats here. Good eats at Globe Life Park. When we walk into this stadium and walking through the tunnel that leads to the clubhouse, we walk right by the boomstick car. That one hit to center. Martine's back. He's at the wall. He leaps. It's gone. Wow. Phegley homers, and the A's take a 2-1 lead.
Wow. That's some strength. 4th home run, 2nd consecutive with a 2-strike count. And Josh Phegley really showing his power as he did at the Coliseum. This no stride, went down and got it, and Phegley got Ian Kennedy and a 1-2 fastball in. And it's a surprising thing, Martine plays so well center field, looked like he was going to run it down and just kept traveling. Martine figures he can get to anything, and he just ran out of room. I'd have that look too if I were Gonzalez, because
Simeon shoots on the right field for a base hit. It is now with 6 hits off Gonzalez. 2 of them by Simeon. Here's the man of the hour right now, Josh Phegley, with his 4th home run of the year.
Fight it off your hands there, Marcus, with a shift. Elvis Anderson, actually, second base is Odor, close to second, and Simeon shooting the ball to the opposite field.
So here's the top of the order, and Burns, who's 1 for 2. Burns is hit in the 3rd inning, extended his hitting streak to 13 games, and it kept the inning going, and it allowed Eric Sogard to come up, and he had the RBI single. So Billy Burns continues to do his thing, and you know what, Ray? I took a glance at the American League rookie batting leaders today, and there's really nobody that jumps out off the page who's having a great all-around season as a rookie in the American League. Steven Souza, the young man for the Rays, has got 14 home runs, but his batting average is fairly low. I know he plays a good outfield, so he's a candidate. But it's the National League has a couple. They got Chris Bryant, the kid from the Cubs, and Peterson, the kid from the Dodgers, who's got 19 home runs. They have a couple guys who are kind of having off-the-wall seasons statistically. Throw to second to get the out there. Nice play by Chichi Gonzalez. But the point is I'm starting to think that Billy Beane is becoming a very legitimate American League Rookie of the Year candidate. Or Billy Burns.
Billy Beane, too.
Billy Beane, yeah.
When he was playing, he was a candidate.
So,
yeah, you're right.
The point is there's really not anybody jumping out, and all of a sudden he's starting to move up.
Yeah, that's a great point. No, and just how well he has played, and we'll see now that he bunted and tried to bunt for a base hit. Gonzalez, good play getting the lead runner. See if Billy Burns now attempts to steal. Chirinos, a very good throwing catcher, but But I agree with you, and just the way he's played the outfield,
Sure.
the way he's changed really the way teams play him because of his speed.
But you know, there's usually a guy in each league that sort of jumps out. That's having a big season. And we have that in the National League, but really not so much in the American League.
And the three guys that you mentioned, Susan, the Miracle League, the two in the National League, are all power hitters.
Big time. Yeah.
And you're looking at Billy Burns, while he has two, it's still, his game is more running and infield hits and stolen bases and playing a very good center field. So it's a combination of things that he is doing, as opposed to maybe those other three guys just kind of won with power.
In the dirt. 1-1 the count. So I had Billy Beane as a Rookie of the Year candidate.
He was.
He was at one time.
He was, exactly. And he was
maybe
drafted.
now more of an MVP candidate.
Well,
in the GM world.
Right. But no, you're right, because he was drafted in front of a lot of players. His talent was there. Excellent GM. Now they call him Executive of the Year.
1 now to Sogard. Sogard, the RBI single in the third, picking up his 19th run batted in. Burns with the lead, not running, and the pitch is low. Last year, Jose Abreu won the American League Rookie of the Year award with huge power numbers from the White Sox.
That was unanimous.
That was
Unanimous Rookie of the Year, unanimous Most Valuable Player. Of course, Mike Trout, very deserving.
So 3-1 to Sogard. See if Burns runs here. He inches off with his lead. He's not going, and the pitch is a strike. 3-2.
Well, with Burns' speed and Sogard's ability to drive the ball, this pitch a perfect pitch, I guess you could say. But the outfield very shallow. Gallo playing Sogard very shallow in left field. See, he's in the upper left corner of your screen, but
Sogard hits it hard, but right at Moreland, who scoops it up, steps on the bag. Side retired. A's take the lead on Josh Phegley's 4th home run of the year, and it was a long one to left center field. So it's 2-1 Athletics as we go to the bottom of the 5th. California is brought to you by Real Strong Redwood. Why Redwood? Visit realstrongredwood.com. So bottom of the fifth from Globe Life Park, and the A's now have a 2-1 lead for Jesse Chavez. They'll face Chirinos, Odor, and Gallo. First pitching, first strike. Astros and the Angels will play tonight in Anaheim. That'll be game 2 of that series. McHugh for the Astros and Wilson for the Angels. Anaheim won last night 4-3 behind a couple of home runs by Albert Pujols. He was just a little bit hot.
You mean the Angels won thanks to Albert Pujols?
Thanks to Albert Pujols.
He had a 2-run monster shot to give them the lead, and then added another solo, and they were not cheap. Either one. Yeah, he's about as hot a hitter as there probably is in the game, at least in the American League that we've seen.
And he now leads the American League in home runs with 23. 1-2 pitch is hit hard into left field, and a base hit for Robinson Chirinos. So, Jesse Chavez had a stretch of 7 consecutive hitters, and that ends right there, and he'll be into the stretch.
Well, they tried to go inside with a 2-seamer, and while, yeah, he got a ground ball, but it's right in the wheelhouse when the hitter opened up, and Brett Lauria dived to his left, could not get it. And Jesse does so well pitching away from hitters, especially with a 2-seamer that he brings back to the outside. So flirting with danger when you go inside, and just got a 2-strike base hit to left field.
Here's Odor, who's got a single and a double tonight. Rory on the grass. Middle infielders at double play depth, and the ball's hit to right field and hit well. Reddick's going back, and that one's gone. Just like that, the Rangers grab the lead right back at 3-2. A line drive home run by Rougned Odor.
Well, outside corner, stayed inside with the changeup, and he did not get it out there. And Rougned Odor, a great night. Single, double, home run, and a line drive home run. And that quickly. 2 pitches, 2 mistakes, and 2 runs.
And that is just the 5th home run that Jesse Chavez has allowed this year. He's done that in 83 innings. So that's a very low number, but that one hurts. And there's a line drive, base hit down the right field line. Gallo's going to try for 2. Reddick's throw is just a little late, and Gallo slides in with the double, and that's a hustle double, and give him credit because he was going all the way. He did not slow down, and he knows what kind of arm Reddick has, but he just beat the throw.
And Reddick made the perfect throw to second, but if he's not thinking to out of the box, he's not going to make it. Reddick, the perfect throw to second base, and Semien put his head right in, his face right in, but Gallo got his hand in safely, and because of the head first slide, Marcus Semien able to put the knee down, try to block him off, but could not do it.
So here's Prince Fielder, still nobody out. One hit down the left field line, but it'll reach the seats foul. Prince Fielder a walk, and then a hard hit ground ball that Sogard made a nice play on. So he's 0 for 1.
Same ball right now is a base hit because Sogard has to play on the dirt. Prince was hit him before, leading off the inning. So Sogard, who is on the grass a little bit, but still not as deep as it was in the last at bat.
And that one's hit toward Reddick. Reddick in, now he's got to hustle back, and it's over his head. He picks it up quickly, and they're going to have to hold Gallo as Prince Fielder into second with a double. Gallo had to wait, and it looked like Reddick was going to catch it, even though he misplayed it by coming in a step off the crack of the bat. So it goes as a double, second and third, nobody out.
And again, trying to get it inside and unsuccessfully, and you're right, Reddick did break in slightly and just enough that he could not get back quickly enough to catch the ball just over his head, and maybe just not able to pick the ball up off the bat enough to prevent it from being over his head.
So single, homer, double, double, and Jesse Chavez is in a world of trouble now.
Well, it's all about location, and then this happens, and that's how close it was for Reddick to catch the ball and could not do it.
I can't think of really the last time that Josh Reddick misjudged a fly ball.
Yeah.
He usually has a good read on it. So here's Beltre. Couple of runners in scoring position. Well, the infield, everybody's going to play in except Sogar. And there's a strike on the outside corner. And when I say in, Simeon he's not really all the way in. I guess you could kind of say halfway.
Yeah. I think if Beltre hits the ball hard, I don't know that Gallo's going to go in contact anyway.
Swing and a miss. Chase something up, and it's 0-2.
Well, elevated, and for Adrian Beltre, all the batting practice in the world, comes right back into Major League pitching.
And he drives this one to center, plenty deep. In fact, both runners are going to tag. And Prince Fielder's going to make it to third as Gallo comes in to score. So Adrian Beltre, a productive out, gets the run home and gets another runner to third with one out. So it's now 4-2 Rangers.
Well, it's too bad. Jesse Chavez is just not making any pitches in this inning. And granted, coming into the inning, he had thrown a bunt 70. And this on a two-strike pitch for Adrian Beltre. And basically, he was just protecting, trying to hit the fly ball, which he did deep enough to advance both runners. And that is a big run, big 90 feet for Big Cecil or Prince Fielder. But I think the biggest thing in this inning is Jesse Chavez, who usually can make pitches where he wants to, and he's not doing it this inning.
Now he faces Moreland, and that one a strike in the outside corner. A couple of ground outs by Moreland, both to second base. Moreland with 8 home runs and 33 RBIs. A 3 spot for the Rangers here in the 5th. You watch a guy and you watch how he takes a pitch, and it may give you a pretty good idea how his at-bat is going. And Moreland took a changeup there like he knew it was coming. That's a fastball in the outer half of the plate, and it's fouled, so the count now 2-2 with Elvis Andrus in the on-deck circle. Well, nope. Nobody's real happy with Lance Barrett tonight.
Well, the mistake Moreland made, he should have verbally not take his hand off his bat.
Well, that's a good call. You're right.
Well, you do it verbally. If you get it, fine. If not, you take your hand off your bat and then have to quickly put it back on. Good block by Josh Phegley with the runner at third, so that's a good one.
So now the count is full to Moreland. Prince Fielder is your runner at third. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a changeup, and that's a big strikeout.
Kev, I do not think the intent was to pitch to Moreland, and if they had been able to get Beltre out without him sacrificing the ball to center, sitting the ball deep enough to center field, they probably would intentionally walk Moreland, but they went after him, and Jesse Chavez, good job throwing the changeup on 3-2. So if he's looking at it 2-1, maybe you're not thinking about it 3-2. And that might have been the time to think about how carefully they might be pitching to the hitter, just because Moreland's success against the A's.
Blocked nicely by Phegley as Andrus steps in. Andrus doubled and scored in the second and grounded out in the fourth. Andrus has had a couple days off. He had Sunday off, and then he
Rangers had yesterday off, so he's a guy who plays a lot. He's had a couple days off. And that one off the leg of the pitcher, and Semien grabs it with the bare hand, but doesn't have enough time to make a play. Prince Fielder comes in to score, and it's 5-2 Rangers. Well, it was a kick saved by Jesse Chavez, and he got a foot on it. But at that point, you just have no idea where it's going to go.
And where it hit off him, and again a pitch that was he kicked it with the left foot instep, and had he not made contact, was it hit hard enough that Sogard could have handled it or would have gone into center field? But once it went off his foot, the speed of Elvis Andrus, he was going to score him. And once again, we saw it with Brett Laurie and Billy Burns in Oakland. The extra 90 feet, Prince Fielder going to third. He doesn't score if he stays at second on that ball. So there's your hustle by Prince Fielder, and it helps the Rangers score another run, fourth in this inning.
So with that, Scribner gets up. 4 runs on 5 hits in the inning. And here's Leonis Martin. Andrus has a big lead at first. He always has a big lead. Rangers like to run. They've stolen 49 bases this year. That's 4th most in the American League. Big chopper foul. Hector Ortiz is the first base coach for the Rangers. Martinez grounded out to Sogard twice. He rips that one foul. Line shot. Home run distance, but foul.
Get another changeup left up where a hitter could hit it hard. Fortunately, out in front was Martin, that he pulled a foul.
Chavez trying to end this inning, and it has not been a good one for him. 92 pitches. Runner goes, and the ball's popped up. It'll be just behind the A's dugout.
And Andrus had a tremendous jump. He was not, actually, I don't know if Chavez even looked at him, because he got the big jump, took off, and 2 strikes had to swing at the hitter.
So another 0-2, but before that a throw to keep Andrus close. If Andrus goes, he does not pitch out. Remember, the Rangers are playing without Delino to Shields, the youngster who kind of took over the leadoff spot for them, but he's a little bit injured. Should be out real long, but he was doing a very nice job in that leadoff spot for Texas.
Pitch out again. Pitch out again, he's going to be running. Yeah, he threw out a runner at the plate at the Coliseum from foul territory. No?
Just missed, and now the count even 2-2.
Remember the play he made in the line in foul territory, and the tag play, threw out a runner, the double play actually in the inning.
He's got a little hamstring injury. Missed again. Of course, Josh Hamilton out. Because Hamilton is starting a rehab assignment tomorrow, so he's getting close to coming back. Lots of pitches for Jesse Chavez, and that's kind of what we were worried about, Ray, when the game started.
Well, 26 in this inning, and that's why it seems like the location has not been where you want.
And he gets the strikeout of Martin to end the inning, but 4 runs scored on 5 hits for the Rangers, so we go to the 6th. It's now Texas 5 and the A's 2.
At athletics.com. Voting is exclusively online and available on your computer, tablet, and smartphone. Vote up to 35 times at athletics.com. So Stephen Vogt there talking to Max Muncy. Of course, Josh Reddick having a great year. And you can vote, help your A's go to Cincinnati for the All-Star game. Ned Yost, the manager of the American League team, will be at the Coliseum this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A 3-game weekend series. The Royals in town. And I'm sure Bob Melvin will have a conversation with the manager as they will have the selections after the fans vote all the Royals in for the starting lineup. Or at least right now 7, right?
Well, yeah, they allowed Trout and Cabrera to sneak in there. We appreciate the Royal fans allowing those 2 average players to get in.
Yeah, just like when Ford Frick and the Reds, he decided to put Aaron and Mays
That's
in.
right. Let's see if we can find a spot for those guys.
One time to help they had 2 All-Star games per season, which is about 3 years, 4 years, and so that's why you had usually those guys playing in 22, 24 All-Star games. Still a lot.
Now to Zobrist.
Still a lot, whether it's 1 or 2 a season. Still perennial All-Stars.
And will be in Cincinnati this year. Of course, always a lot of talk about who picks who picks what. Still the fan voting that does the starters, and then the players get quite a few votes now as far as reserves. Really, the manager, who used to have a much larger say in who goes. It sounds like a manager now, when it's all said and done, gets maybe 5 or 6 picks.
With that, yeah, and I think that has to be an agreement with the powers to be. So I think it's definitely a change.
And it's a leadoff walk to Zobrist. All right, let's take a look at tomorrow's pitching probables, brought to you by Chevron. It's Kendall Graveman, who's been pitching extremely well for the A's, against Wandy Rodriguez. Wandy Rodriguez, 3-4 years ago, was a very good left-handed pitcher for the Houston Astros, but then he hit some rough times, could not get it straightened out, and now he's pitching extremely well here for the Texas Rangers. He's left-handed, so Graveman and Wandy Rodriguez tomorrow. First pitch to Reddick, breaking ball, first strike. That walk to Zobrist, the first walk issued by Chichi Gonzalez, and he has not struck anybody out. But I guess that the manager's choices things, Ray. So let's say you have 5, just for sake of discussion. You may have to use 2 or 3 of those on a player from a team.
That's right.
Because you got to have one guy from every team.
That's right.
That's usually what happens. And I don't have a problem with a manager who is managing the All-Star team. Say, hey, I want to take one of my guys. I want to reward or 2 guys. I mean, I know it
or 7,
happens, but
yeah, right.
But I'm saying actually him picking one of his guys. Why not?
Well, with the outstanding bullpen of the Royals, you'd have to figure somebody's going to go from the pen.
Andrus hustling out, Gallo hustling in, and it's Elvis Andrus who makes the catch.
But you know, sadly, as badly as we want Stephen Vogt to be an All-Star, Sonny Gray with 8 wins, and again, he's probably going to have at least 9, maybe 10. But because Salvador Perez is leading the votes for catchers, he's going to be the starting catcher.
Yeah.
Which means that Stephen would have to be voted in by the players, which we hope they would recognize his accomplishments in the first half, and that would be great for him.
And you would think that, I mean, listen, I think players do a really good job of picking who they think the All-Stars should be.
I mean, even to the point the players, since it's a meaningful game, players probably should select them anyway.
Maybe more. And Butler is hit. And Butler will get rid of the guards and head to first base. So there'll be 2 on and 1 out for Ike Davis.
Well, if he's pitching inside, that's pitching inside, because that wasn't even close to the corner, and well, Butler kind of looking at him. That's way off the line, off the plate anyway, going inside. Last year, the A's had 7 All-Stars. The club had a great first half.
There's a pitch count for Chichi Gonzalez. But looking at the schedule, Ray, for the A's, it looks like Sonny Gray will probably make 4 more starts before the All-Star break. With the first one being Thursday right here at the day game.
Yeah, so he could have 10 plus.
Sure.
Very easily. And of course, if the A's score some runs, the way he's been pitching, what the shock was in the Angels game, which was his last game. Got 4 in the first inning. 3 in the first inning. 3-run home run by Ben Zobrist. It'd be great if Ike Davis could hit a home run. Tie this game. He has 2.
First pitch is a fastball outside, 1-0. Davis has bounced to first and bounced to third.
Home run Ike Davis hit at Target Field was way deep in right center, and of course right field very inviting. Jesse Chavez would love it, as he is probably finished. Got him, what, 97 pitches through 5 innings.
Outside again, 2-0. So here's that style you talked about, Ray. Nibble, nibble, and if you don't get a swing or a strike called, well, then you may have to come in with a quality strike. But Gonzalez seems to be able to do that. He's behind in the count, 2-0.
Trying to get Ike Davis to roll over on a sinker away.
Tried it again. Pick off at second, and Zobrist just gets back. Zobrist was drifting out to a pretty good secondary lead.
Oh, Andrus close to second base, pre-planned play, and to try to keep the runner closer. Zobrist trying to get the secondary lead, but very quickly, once the ball passed the hitter, to get back, and he saw Chirinos come up throwing, and he knows that Chirinos does throw well.
So now it's 3-0. Laurie is the on-deck hitter. And that remained first strike. So 3-1, 92 miles an hour from Chichi Gonzalez. So we're going to get action in the bullpen. Tony Keela starts to throw. And there's a base hit right center field. That should get a run home, as Zobrist
heads home. Butler's to third. And Ike Davis to second, and he's in there. RBI double for Davis, and now it's 5-3.
Well, that also a big 90 feet for someone who's coming off the disabled list because of a quad injury. And Ike Davis 3-1. Ball, pretty good pitch from Gonzalez again, but into right center. Ball looked like it might get past Martin, who throws extremely well. And Ike Davis testing him and barely got in safely. And once again, the home plate are the umpires holding their call. As Ike Davis, in fact, like you said about Joey Gallo, thinking too, looking, hoping, and safe into second base, keeps his foot on the bag.
So now the A's a base hit away from possibly tying up this game. First pitch to Laurie is down and away. So it all started with the Zobrist walk and a hit batter. Big slider there in for a strike. Laurie lays off the pitch, but the count now 1-1. Laurie has grounded to third and grounded to first.
And with them pitching him away, just hit the ball on the ground and see if Billy Butler can score.
Went out there again, just missed, a little off the plate.
I remember back on May the 1st down the right field line, the double hit by Brett Laurie on a pitch that was up. Smoked it to right field. The A's scored 7 runs in that 8th inning. He's really off the plate, Laurie is.
And now it's 2-2. Almost looks like he's a little more off the plate than normal.
Well, and it's opened up more and then closes up, and that's the reason they went slider away and then fastball in.
So setting up inside, and he got him swinging. Well, you're just thinking he's going to stay outside, but he went in and gets a big strikeout of Laurie. That's his first strikeout in the game.
The movement right there, and that's what tied up Brett Laurie, and maybe because of the movement of the bat, they did not want to go back outside with a slider and have him shoot the ball to right field. Tied him up inside with a good fastball.
So 2 away. Here's Phegley. This is what Phegley did in the 5th inning.
This is a pretty good pitch by Gonzalez, and the ball just kept carrying, showing the power and the strength of Josh Phegley, his 4th of the season against a right-hander.
Butler at third, Davis at second. And Phegley belts one to center. Martin is going to watch it sail over his head, and this ball game is going to be tied. Phegley has done it again. Wow. A booming double to center field to knock in 2.
Is this young man strong or what? I mean, you're looking at an accomplished center fielder in Martin, and that's going to be it for Gonzalez. As Kip Bannister going out, but watch the strength. They try to go back inside with a fastball, and Josh Phegley just dropped the hammer. I mean, you hit it over Martin's head in center field, you're doing something. And it was a bullet over his head. Martin plays shallow typically, and that time he got burnt because the ball was smoked over his head, and that's a big hit again.
So when it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. It's your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. at Dodger Stadium. Watch Keone Kela. That's a balk right there. And it was a 0-0 game with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning and a runner at third. And that's how the game ended. And you know what? It was a balk. He moved just a little bit, and that allowed the winning run to score. Final score, Dodgers 1, Rangers nothing. Unbelievable. So a tough night for this young man, but he's done a nice job this year. 34th game, so he's been a workhorse.
Major League debut against the Athletics early in the season, and RC was the losing pitcher when the A's had their first and only walk-off of the season. And that was the Jesse Hahn game. He had that balk walk-off, so he's had a couple of walk-offs that he does not like, but he has done a good job. Good curveball, which he just showed in the first pitch.
Semien calls timeout. Simeon's 2 for 2 with 2 singles and a run scored. So the A's have scored 3 to tie it right back up in the 6th inning. And now it's 2-0.
The interesting thing about this, and granted this is just the 6th inning, but if Semien can drive in Phegley, Gonzalez could possibly be the pitcher of record for a loss, and Jesse Chavez, who's probably finished, could get the win. That's just how strange the game could be, because Scribner's warming up, but this is just the 6th inning, and there's a lot of baseball remaining, especially the old ballpark in Arlington.
Yeah, it's got one of those crazy feels to it, does this game. 5-5 in the 6th. So Scribner's been throwing, so he's ready. So now 3-1 to Semien. Go ahead, run at second base. Defense pretty much straight away for Semien. And he lines one into the seats foul.
You see the delivery by Phegley, who's right over the top with everything. Curveball, fastball. It tries to keep the ball down low, which that one was, but Semien sitting fastball got it. Just too quick, but right over the top. And pretty impressive delivery, slight movement, the fastball coming inside.
So now full count to Marcus Semien. And here it is. And it's hit past Andrus, and that's a base hit. And Simeon's going to hustle the second. He's going to make it as Phegley crosses the plate. And the A's have taken the lead 6-5.
And that's a great at bat by Marcus Semien, because good curveball, runner at second base. You don't have to really give in to him. He does throw him a fastball. And Marcus Semien, very quick, pulled it, line drive past the diving Elvis Andrus at shortstop, and Martin had to go to left center, and Marcus Semien with his speed able to get into second with a run scoring double to give the A's the lead.
So all 6 runs charged to Chichi Gonzalez, who for the first time in his career gets knocked around. He was pretty good early, but it looks like he ran out of gas.
Marcus Semien, that is great, because you got to be thinking in the back of your mind, a pretty good curveball that he throws. You don't want to get out too far in front and swing over the pitch. But great at bat, gets a big hit, hitting 9th. He's gotten 3 hits tonight, has Marcus Semien, and this one a big one.
So here's Burns, who swings and misses, and it's a quick 0-2 count.
I'd like to see Mike Gallagher have to make a call here, because the outfield playing very shallow. Marcus Semien can get an even bigger lead at second base, because they do not want to try to hold him close. But if Burns does make contact and goes to the outfield, it's probably not going to be hit deep.
0-2 curveball. It's lined into the glove of Beltre. Side retired. So the A's answer right back and score 4 runs of their own. So it's now the A's 6, the Rangers 5 after 5.5.
Josh Phegley gives the A's a 2-1 lead with his 4th home run. And then right back the next inning, Odor with a 2-run home run. The Rangers have put up 4, but Josh Phegley, with the A's trailing by a run, 2 runs actually, drives a double to straightaway center field to tie the game. And then Marcus Semien with a blistering double to left center. That would score Phegley. A's with a 6-5 lead. And yes, it is Jesse Chavez, the pitcher of record. Marcus Semien with 3 hits on the night, hitting in the 9th spot. And Josh Phegley, a huge night with a home run, a double, 3 driven in. And it's only the 6th inning.
Think this will be the final score?
Find out what's possible with AT&T. Call 1-800-PICK-ATT, mobilizing your world.
We hope this is the final score. So when it's time for Change Things Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. Evan Scribner comes in. So Scribner with the A's leading 6-5. Rua, Chirinos, and Odor are your 3 scheduled hitters. So Ray, this is what Bob Melvin's looking for. A reliever outside of Tyler Clippard that has some success when the A's have the lead.
Well, and there's already bullpen activity for the A's, so this could be the last 3 innings. Make it 4 innings, 12 outs. And it could be everybody used out of the bullpen. And maybe even get to the point a position player has to pitch if they use everybody if Clippard's not available.
A's do not want to use Clippard tonight if they don't have to. It would have to be really an emergency. So there's the numbers for Jesse Chavez. Not his best outing, but he leaves with a 6-5 lead. 97 pitches, couple of walks, 3 strikeouts. But he's allowed to have a tough outing every once in a while, and he still has a chance to get a win. How about that?
Well, I'm sure the Rangers and Chichi Gonzalez saying the same thing. I mean, he'd been.
He's looking for a no decision.
I mean, he had a 0.90 earned run average coming into the night's game. He gives up 6 earnings in 5 2/3.
2-2 pitch. The big curve is in the dirt. So full count to Rua, who has struck out and hit a fly ball to left. 0 for 2. And Scribner deals, and the ball's belted toward Burns, who's going to get over there, dives, and he caught it in left center field.
Speed, speed, speed. And of course, playing in right center. This ball, of course, with a favorable count for the hitter, and he's able to go against the defense. And after there are times you just see the outfielders, depending on the count, they will move. And in the case of this right-handed hitter who has some pop, able to get out in front of a pitch, but Billy Burns says, I'll play normally in right center. I'll use my speed to go catch the ball, and he just robs him of extra bases. That is a great play by Billy Burns.
Here's Chirinos.
But the biggest thing for infielders and outfielders, as the pitches are thrown to a hitter, that changes the defense, because the hitter might become more aggressive. Gets 2 strikes, he won't be as aggressive.
Good curve by Scribner. 0-2. Chirinos has a walk and a single, and he has scored a run. Taps that one just up the third baseline.
But June 11th, Scott Kazmir on the mound, and Billy Burns showing it off. And a couple of great plays. This one completely leaves his feet left center. Thought maybe Sam Foe was going to catch it, and able to catch the ball in left center, and then even better a little bit later to the wall, and turns his back, turns around, finds out where he is, bangs up against the wall, and comes down with another great catch. That he was tremendous that day.
Laurie takes care of Robinson Chirinos. So 2 away here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Flaherty might have been up for this part of the batting order. Todd with Odor, and then Gallo and Prince Fielder, 3 consecutive lefties. So with the 2 outs, Flaherty, if Scribner could get through this inning, maybe he would start the 7th. It's going to be a bullpen by committee, a whole bunch of them, as Bob Melvin tries to get big 12 outs and now make it 10 with 2 outs in the 6th.
First pitch to Odor is in the first round. Royals and the Mariners are just underway. Guthrie and Montgomery, the pitching matchup there. Guthrie 5-4 for Kansas City. Last night the Royals won 4-1, where the Mariners got just 2 hits last night. So they continue to struggle to score runs. They're second to last in the American League in run scoring. We're talking about the Mariners.
Joe Blanton.
Good job.
Country Joe.
Scooped up on a tough out by Simeon, and Scribner with a very nice 3 up, 3 down inning with a little help from Billy Burns in center field. 7th inning coming up. A's leading 6-5.
Sportsnet California is brought to you by Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places. And by Xfinity, home of the most live sports.
A little bit of a wild one tonight. We've seen enough wild ones here over the years, but 6-5, 7th inning. As the A's come to bat. Kenny Kellogg faced a couple of hitters in the 6th, on in relief of Chichi Gonzalez. Sogard, Zobrist, and Reddick. First pitch to Sogard is outside. 1 for 3 with an RBI single for the A's second baseman. Outside, 2-0.
There's one statistic relievers do not like. That's called inherited runner score. That's what happened last inning when Marcus Semien got the big hit. As that goes against his numbers.
It is a negative number for a reliever. And he falls behind Sogard 3-0. And a 4-pitch walk to open up the 7th inning.
You know, for this season, A's fans can go to all July home games for just $89 with the July Ballpark Pass. For one low price, you can get access to all 13 A's home games in July, including 2 fireworks games and the Hello Kitty bobblehead night. It's a mobile-only offer with all passes accessed through your iPhone or Android phone. Get yours today at athletics.com/ballparkpass. I just thrilled about the Hello Kitty bobblehead. What, have you seen a Hello Kitty bobblehead?
No, not yet. Did I tell you my gnome is working? Oh, I told you.
And you don't have it on your driveway either, right? It's in your backyard.
The lefty, Sam Freeman, who looks like he's ready to go.
As Zobrist steps in, so Sogard aboard on the leadoff walk. The first pitch is outside, so 5 straight out of the strike zone for Keone Kela.
And does the gnome have a switch, or is it all solar power? Because you're the
switch.
expert. There's a switch.
Switch on the bottom. I think so.
But yours got the solar.
Unbelievable. Lights up the whole backyard. Ray, I think you're best suited for the Hello Kitty, I think.
Oh, thank you. I've been wondering what that looks like.
You got a granddaughter now.
That's
right.
Be perfect for her. That'd be great. Next, we'll be having a Glenn Kuiper bobblehead.
That's funny. You're funny, Ray.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious.
You're such a card sometimes.
No, I think that would be great.
I don't think that's going to happen. I would be honored, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Outside again, and now it's 2-1. I can't imagine that Jeff Bannister's going to wait around too long with a reliever not throwing strikes in a game like this. It's 6-5 in the 7th.
Well, with Freeman, the lefty, warming up, Reddick in the on-deck circle, then righty Butler, lefty in Davis. So Bob Melvin has positioned his hitters lefty-righty throughout the lineup. One thing a manager, and again, a lot of time taken and put it together lineup, the one thing they do not want to do is position a lot of hitters hitting from the same side consecutively, because it helps a bullpen. In case of all lefties together, lefty can come in and face the 3. He did that in Anaheim as Alvarez came in, faced 2 lefties, a switch hitter, gave up hits to all of them.
Zobrist belts one to right center. That's hit well. Rua's back, and that baby's gone. Zobrist to deep right center, and it's 8-5. The A's lead. Looked like a pitch that maybe was a little bit up, and Zobrist just jumped on it.
I was thinking the same thing, but that's a case of a hitter looking for a pitch and saying, I'm going to hit it. Look the location. Maybe a little bit up and away, but Ben Zobrist just loaded up and hit it to right center. And remember, there's not necessarily a jet stream here, but he got on top of a high fastball. And Ben Zobrist, another big home run. He hit the 3-run home run in Oakland. This is a big 2-run home run that gives the A's a 3-run lead.
When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up, your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. With Sportsnet Central. It's brought to you by Hyundai. It's tonight at 10:30, and it's on our sister station, Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area. Our highlights from this game and from all around Major League Baseball, and the latest on DeMarcus Cousins. Are the Kings trying to trade their star? Matt Braid and David Feldman.
So the A's have come storming back. They were down 5-2, but 4 in the 6th. Zobrist with a 2-run homer here in the 7th, and now the A's lead 8-5.
Well, the one thing I like to see is exactly what Ben Zobrist did, and that is to look for a pitch, knowing the count's 3-2, looking fastball, getting it, and hitting it. As Freeman, 17th game for the left-hander. He faced the Athletics in Oakland, and they were there early part of the month, 9th, 10th, and 11th. So not surprised. Josh Reddick not surprised to see the lefty to come in to face him. Ben Zobrist, since his return from the disabled, has 4 home runs in this month of June.
And Reddick rips one to right. That's a base hit. Burrow picks it up. So the A's now with 10 hits.
Josh Reddick, a couple of balls hit hard to left field with a shift this time, though. Going to right center with the count in his favor, 2-0.
So still nobody out, and here's Butler.
And Kuiper, as harmless as it seemed, and you saw the look by Billy Butler, but he was hit last inning by Gonzalez, who pitches inside well, but the pitch was so far off the plate, hitting Butler.
Beltre has it. He's going to go across the diamond to first. Yeah, it seemed I don't know. It seemed a bit odd because I think hitters are smart. I think they have a general idea if they think they're being thrown.
Yeah. And Butler shot a glance at it, but it could have been also the heat may have gotten to Gonzalez. Maybe he just wore him out as well, and maybe tried to pitch inside and held on a little bit too long. But
either way, you're right. It's a situation where the A's have a runner at first, 1 out. If you're the pitcher, you're thinking, all right, Butler's a good hitter, but he's also a guy who hits into a lot of double plays.
And the thing that he has
done, you hit him, and then it just
But the thing that he has done tonight, Butler, he has tried to pull the outside pitches, so they're going inside and hitting as Bass gets loose, the right-hander. But it was just a very surprising. But he had thrown 71 pitches through the 5 innings Gonzalez had. And then he walks Zobrist, gets Reddick to pop out, and then he hits Butler, and that opened it up.
1-1 pitch to Ike Davis. Hit foul down the first base line, not hard.
And Kuiper did that by Ike Davis, who doubled to right center. Him stretching. Remember, he's coming off the disabled list with a groin injury, or at least a quad injury, and extra time. But he stretched what looked like could be an easy single into a double, and that helped the A's as well. So all good things happening last inning for the Athletics.
And he chases that one, a slider way out of the strike zone. So Ike Davis strikes out. That's just the 2nd time an A's hitter has struck out tonight.
I think he was not looking for that slider. That's your chase slider there.
So 2 outs, and here's Laurie with Reddick in scoring position. First pitch to Laurie is outside. Laurie is grounded out twice and struck out. The insurance run you get in this ballpark is huge. Good take there on an off-speed pitch, 2-0.
Okay, that's a great point, because I don't think you can ever score too many runs at this point. I mean, unless Nolan Ryan's on the mound, you expect a no-hitter, which he's in the Hall of Fame, so that's not going to happen. But it's just a tough part to come into play, to hit, to pitch, and especially with the temperatures now in the mid-90s.
Andrus on the run, flips to first, side retired. Ben Zobrist, he's been a hot hitter lately, and he stays hot. 2-run homer. So now, as we've reached the 7th inning stretch, the A's have an 8-5 lead over the Rangers. 7th pick in the 2002 draft by the Brewers, and then he had some great seasons in Milwaukee. Went to the Tigers as a free agent, huge contract. Couple years in Detroit, and then traded to the Texas Rangers for Ian Kinsler. And of course, last year very disappointing, injured disc in his neck, played in just 42 games, but this year he looks like Prince Fielder we knew in Milwaukee and in Detroit. He's really had a terrific season.
And whenever Big Daddy, as they called him, his dad, Cecil Fielder, was playing, Prince used to go out and take batting practice with a wooden bat. And everybody said, yeah, that's some bit farther than Major League
like 12 years old.
Exactly.
When it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. Your oil change, tune-up, and repair expert. So Eric O'Flaherty in the lefty to face Gallo, Fielder, and Beltran. First pitch, a slider low. Now, speaking of Prince Fielder's dad, Cecil Fielder, he hit 319 career home runs. Prince Fielder has 299, so he's getting close to his dad. And that one is popped up. It'll land in the lower level.
I don't know that anybody's going to pass the Aaron brothers, though. Hank with 755. And I'm trying to think of his brother's name. Tommy Aaron. Yeah. And I don't know them combined, but Hank alone has a bunch.
Yeah, I think that probably, they lead the brothers home run.
Yeah.
The father-son, or the Bonds, are first, and then the Fielders are second. So Tommy Aaron hit what, like 5?
Yeah. Another part of the A's bullpen, Fernando Rodriguez, loose and ready to come in. And
you know what, Ray? You think about a game like this where your bullpen knows they're going to need 12 outs, and they know that their closer's probably not available. This could be a big confidence thing for the A's bullpen. If they can hold on, get these final 12 outs, it could be a big deal.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And there's Tyler Clippard, a fan tonight of this bullpen, guys.
Pretty good slider there by O'Flaherty, but Gallo was able to lay off. The Scribner goes an inning, 3 up, 3 down. Three-two to Gallo. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. So 1 away here in the bottom of the 7th.
Well, trying to get him to chase the cutter. Came right back on the inside part of the plate, and Cap, you're right. If you're going to hit home runs, you're going to have this kind of swing with 2 strikes. And that's not protecting the plate with 2 strikes. That's swinging for upper deck. And, it's just a matter of how many strikeouts the Rangers can accept, I guess, from a hitter like that.
Well, at this, where he's at right now, and it's a very small sample size, it's almost half of his at-bats ended strikeouts. I think that'll probably change a little bit. Probably will have to.
And Dave Magadan, the hitting coach of the Rangers, and a very good one. And he was an excellent hitter. He could hit for power, and he's also hit for an average. And I think his biggest chore would probably be trying to get the big hitter to cut down a swing. There is excellent left-handed hitting Dave Magadan with the Red Sox. He moved on to the Rangers as a hitting coach.
Hit to Sogard, who's in the shift, playing out in right field, and that's the 2nd out.
Soga could go back out on the outfield grass. Nobody on, 1 out, and did not have to worry about the double play possibility. Dave Magadan can play, and see his numbers. He was with the A's in 98, 97, 98. And I have mentioned this guy, that his broadcast partner in Tampa Bay, when Dave and I worked together. He still reminds all the players that, he's a hitting coach, but he was a broadcaster.
Sure.
Just a couple games. And he said, enough of that. I'm going back on the field.
So 2 outs, nobody on for Beltran. Beltran had a sacrifice fly in the 5th, picking up his 19th RBI, just back from the disabled list. Rangers are thrilled to have him back. Under spring training, they picked up his option for next year. They obviously did not have to do that at that time. They could do it at the end of this year, but they wanted him to know that they want him around.
And the one thing Jeff Bannister said, first-year manager for the Rangers, said that he needed the veterans in his clubhouse. And as they mourn the loss of Darryl Hamilton, paid special tribute to him, not a moment of silence. And what Jeff Bannister said is exactly what Darryl Hamilton did, and that was to be a leader in the clubhouse. And you had to have somebody who could lead and kind of police the clubhouse. And you're a first-year manager, you want the veterans to be able to take care of matters in the clubhouse. And Beltre is that type of player. And some feel that whenever they're on the disabled list, they can't do it as much as when they're active.
Do you think, Ray, if you don't have that in a clubhouse, it's probably not a good thing?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's why you have to have veterans, because the young players lean on those veterans. And, of course, in the case of Jeff Bannister, a first-year manager does the same thing.
Tough play for Laurie. Makes it, throws wide, and it bounces off the sidewall. And Beltre thought about going to second, and then he made the right decision and stayed at first. The ball bounced off that side wall and then rolled into fair territory. And Mike Davis hustled after it. So Beltre is aboard. We'll see what the ruling is. This is a tough play.
Well, he could have taken more time. He just unloaded. And he has a strong arm. Beltre, while he does run well, and rounded the bag and started to go to second, saw how the ball came back off the sidewall, and Phegley was coming down the line to be there.
It's tough air.
They gave him an error now.
Yeah.
I bet Beltre makes a call, or somebody does.
Yeah, that's tough air.
Yeah,
that is a degree of difficulty.
Yeah, I'm not even going to put it down. I'm going to leave it blank.
So here's Moreland. And the pitch is a fastball on the outside corner strike.
Now, don't get us wrong. Every pitcher likes to have unearned runs if they're going to give up a run unearned. But now it's up to O'Flaherty to get out of this inning. Even though, according to the scorekeeper, should have been back in the dugout if the play had been made. I think even if he stops, Beltre still beats it out. If he stops and throws, considering he had to backpedal, go near the outfield grass.
0-2 the count to Moreland. Shift is on. Laurie is playing right at the shortstop spot. And Moreland hits it towards Sogard, who makes a great effort, but it's past him into right field, and Beltre goes to third. So Moreland with a hit, and now it's first and third. Sogard went for a dive, and it just kicked right up over his glove. Bob Marvin's coming out. And he wants the right-hander.
And the breaking ball, and Sogard, even though in the outfield, could not come up with it as it was hooking away from him.
All right, so Flaherty gets a couple outs, leaves with a couple runners on. It's 8-5 here in the bottom of the seventh.
65 Saturday, June 27th. That's this Saturday. The then KCA's club feature for Campaneris and John Blue Moon Odom, who will both throw out the game ceremony on first pitches. 20,000 fans will receive Charlie O throwback T-shirt presented by Ross, which depicts the iconic A's Mule mascot from the 1960s and the 70s. So that's a big Saturday throwback, and then Faith and Family after the game with Donnie Moore and the Radical Reality team. So a big weekend of baseball against the Kansas City Royals. And Bob Melvin will get to talk to Ned Yost about the All-Stars for the A's as Fernando Rodriguez tries to get the third out in the center.
And it'll be Elvis Andrus who steps in. Beltre at third, Moreland at first. 2 outs. So another big moment in this game, and it's still only the bottom of the 7th. Andrus has had a good game, doubled and scored in the 2nd, grounded out in the 4th, and had an RBI hit in the 5th. The first pitch, and a good rip, fouls it straight back.
Josh Phegley reacted on that ball like it was a cross-up, but it was fouled off his mask, and he looked back quickly. That's Phegley. I mean, this is a hard shot off his mask, and he's looking back maybe to see where the ball was, because it went off his mask, and maybe he knew it was going to bounce back hard to him, because that wall, concrete wall back there, the ball does come back.
Andrus asked for time. He's checking his bat. Make sure it's not broke.
You know what he was doing there, Cap? He was trying to slow down Fernando Rodriguez, because Fernando's ready. He was in the box, and there's nothing wrong with his bat. I mean, he's hit that ball solidly. It went off of Phegley's mask, but that's just a ploy to try to slow him down.
Oh, one pitch is a slider that kind of, it spun but didn't have a lot of break to it, and generally that's called a backup slider, and really not what you want to throw. Curve hit toward the gap, Burns on the move, nobody's going to get it. Beltre scores. Moreland is going to go to third. He'll stop there, and the throw comes in, and Phegley has to knock it down. So it's 8-6 on the RBI double from Andrus. Moreland just not running very well, and I don't think he was going to score no matter what. The ball did not go all the way to the wall.
A curveball, and I'd say a pretty good pitch to hit for Elvis Andrus, and the ball kept slicing, would not slice to Reddick and away from Billy Burns. And Beltre able to score easily. That's going to get down, and he's saying, let's go, let's go. And well, it's unfortunate because it has been ruled in the air on the ball that Beltre hit the Laurie. And what you know, here we are again in a tough situation. Tough air nonetheless, but still, if that's what was recorded, then so be it. But the pitcher still have to get out of damages that occur because of an error.
And now Pomeranz gets up. And the hitter is Leonis Martin. Now the tying runs are in scoring position with 2 outs. Martin 0 for 3, couple of ground outs and a strikeout. And the first pitch is a curve that snaps in there for a strike.
Came right back with the same pitch that Elvis Andrus hit to right center, and a good one right over the top. And a first pitch curve. Most hitters will not swing at those pitches.
Swing and a miss. And a fastball at 95 miles an hour. So Rodriguez jumps ahead here. He's got to finish him off.
Well, that first pitch curveball definitely slowed the bat down. They talk about speeding up the bat, but the slow curve and then the good fastball with the mid-90s. He has a good one. And
here's the 0-2 pitch, and it's hit towards Sogard. Hit hard, but Sogard stays with it and throws out Martin, side retired. So a run for the Rangers. So we go to the 8th. It's now 8-6. A's lead.
is presented by authority of the Oakland Athletics and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Athletics Investment Group, LLC.
So it's the A's 8, the Rangers 6, top of the 8th inning. And one of the hitting heroes of the night is Josh Phegley, and he will face Anthony Bass. So Bass, his 19th appearance out of the bullpen, and he's the 4th pitcher of the night for the Rangers.
Score some more.
Probably a good idea. Phegley has grounded out, he has homered, and he has doubled home a pair. So he's 2 for 3, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. So the bottom of the A's order has done damage. Phegley and Simeon are 5 for 6 combined, and they are a huge reason why the A's are winning this game.
Absolutely.
Swing, ain't gonna miss. Fastball that was running in on Phegley.
He tried to pull in, and ball just kept running in. But he has handled the pitches inside as they continue to try to go in, and Chernos wants the slider outside.
And it misses outside by quite a bit.
Chernos gives a target or a sign, and then he points to where he wants it thrown. That's unusual. He just points outside. The other slider, he's not going to point this time. He just gives a target.
And that was a pretty good one, and he went around. Phegley just could not hold up. And that's out number 1 here in the 8th.
Well, he recognized it, tried to stop, could not. Got way too far out. And the check swing.
Phegley now 2 for 4, and that'll bring up Simeon. Simeon a single and a run scored in the 3rd, a single in the 5th, and an RBI double in the 6th. So he's had a terrific game. He's been struggling some offensively lately, but a good night tonight. And that's a good sign. The 1 pitch is a fastball low from Anthony Bass. The Rangers without Neftali Feliz as well. He'll be back at some point, but does not sound like that's going to happen in the next couple weeks. We got all those starters still hurt. Martin Perez, Harrison, and Holland.
And Tollison's been doing a good job closing in the absence of Feliz, yeah. And who knows, when Feliz comes back, they may put him in the setup role. Stephen Vogt, as he took care of those fingers, man. I wouldn't put him out there like that.
He's framing it. Letting everybody know. 1-2 to Simeon. Slider from Bass, but well off the plate. Sam Freeman went an inning, gave up a hit with a strikeout. So he kind of settled things down after the Zobrist home run. Fastball rolled foul. Astros are leading the Angels 4-0 in the bottom of the 2nd inning. So the Astros jumping out early on C.J. Wilson. That's McHugh and Wilson.
Well, Albert's got 4 at-bats coming.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least 3 more, probably hit in the 1st inning.
There's a home run in there somewhere. Reached for and hit foul. Good pitch by Bass, and Simeon was able to spoil it. Royals and the Mariners are scoreless in the bottom of the 2nd inning in Seattle. Another 3-2 and another foul ball. This one right at home plate. A's have had some pretty good at bats tonight. They got 11 hits.
Billy Burns just showed him 11 pitches with Gonzalez pitching, and it started 0-2. That was the first hitter of the game.
And a slider in for a strike, and Simmons called out.
Well, this is called a front door slider. Did not break away, and almost just tried to throw it in the middle of the plate with the movement, the break, and it froze Marcus. And he knew it. So 3-hit night for the A's shortstop. Drove in a big run and it scored a run.
So a couple of strikeouts for Bass here in the top of the 8th. First pitch to Burns. Rolled toward the on-deck circle. Pomeranz is throwing in the A's bullpen. And in the 8th inning, bottom of the year, it'll be Rua, Chirinos, and Odor. So a couple of right-handed hitters. And then Odor. Remember, the Rangers have Shin-Soo Choo on the bench. He's not in the lineup tonight. Just a touch low to Burns. Burns is 1 for 4. Reached on a fielder's choice in the 5th, so he's been on base a couple times. Slapped, and it's foul off the tarp down the third baseline. Anthony Bass looking for a 3-up, 3-down inning. Those have been tough to come by the last 4 or 5 innings for the Rangers. Tucci Gonzalez, the starter, actually retired the first 8 hitters in this game. But then really after that, nothing was very easy for him. And it all fell apart in the 6th inning when the A's scored 4. Full count now to Burns.
Sogard waiting, but this is the threat that Billy Burns is. And while he swings at a lot of pitches, many out of the strike zone, this time taking the count full, trying to get on base with 2 outs. And the more he handles the strike zone.
Anders charges. He knows he's got to hurry. He was playing a shallow shortstop. And that is a 3-up, 3-down inning for Anthony Bass. So bottom of the 8th coming up from Arlington. Put your seatbelts on. It's 8-6. A's lead. This game summary is brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. 8-11-1 for the A's, 6-10-0 for the Rangers. And neither pitcher was real sharp. Bottom of the order has been great for the A's. Top of the order for the Rangers has got Rougned Odor, who has got 3 hits. And the A's trying to get a big night from their bullpen. If the bullpen needs to get 12 outs, they've gotten 6.
And they're getting harder.
That's right. They always will.
Because this is the 8, 9, and 1 in the order. And of course, Pomeranz loosening. You have Roa and Chiernos, assuming the 2 right-handers hit. Maybe that's Fernando Rodriguez, and then back to the top of the order to the lefties. But this is a big inning for Fernando.
It sure is. Rua, Chirinos, Odor. And it's important because after Odor, then the power hitters come. As we like to say, Ray, the game changers start to come.
Yep.
Gallo, Fielder, Beltre, Moreland.
And the fact the A's do have 3 lefties, and Pomeranz loosening up, and then they still have Fernando Abad, so he can mix and match. That's what they're going to try to do, especially in that part of the batting order.
2-0 pitch is right in their first strike. 94 miles an hour from Rodriguez. Rodriguez gave up the RBI double to Andrus in the 7th, but then got Martin to ground out with runners at 2nd and 3rd. So he finally did get that big final out. Curve, it hung up there, and Ua fouled it back.
Well, as Martin hitting an 0-2 curveball, starting Martin with a curveball, came by with a fastball, blew it by him, and then a pretty good curveball to hit, and Martin hit it well, and the old atom ball. Unfortunately, his defense had him positioned perfectly. It got the big out in the 7th inning. Now Fernando trying to get through the 8th.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a high fastball. So Rua chased a pitch that was probably going to be ball 3. So he's 0 for 4.
Well, maybe like Zobrist trying to expand a little bit, but this a little bit extra on a fastball up in the zone. And Fernando throws the mid-90s. Coming off Tommy John surgery, 2nd year removed, and he is throwing well. And the skipper, a big sigh of relief with that first out and trying to get another one. And see if he goes to Pomeranz, if actually regardless of what happens in this inning or this at bat.
First pitch to Chirinos, and a good one right on the outside corner. Chirinos has walked, singled, and grounded out. Also scored a run, and the ball was in the dirt, and it somehow came up and hit Chirinos. It hit Phegley and then hit Chirinos. Don't see that very often.
A hard curve, backhand, mask, face. And of course the right side exposed, and as he turned away, came right back up as he looked back, and see if it's a double ear flap, it wouldn't affect him, but you just wear the single, most guys do, but fortunately he's okay as he looked back at Phegley and the umpire saying it's okay.
So they'll give Chirinos a little extra time. That breaking ball bounces even further out front than the pitch before that.
And this time Chirinos said, "I'm out of here." It's like Jim Joyce behind home plate the other night. Curveball, and I mean, probably once a career will that happen, but you'll always think about it every time you see the curveball in the dirt again.
So Chirinos now ahead in the count, 2-1. Fastball high, 3-1. Big shift in the outfield. Burns is well into right center field, and Zobrist is way off the line. So they are playing Chirinos to hit the ball the other way. The 3-1 pitch is just a bit outside, and it's a 1-out walk. So Chirinos is aboard. That's the 3rd walk issued by A's pitchers. And here comes Bob Melvin. And he wants the left hand. So Pomeranz coming in when it's time for change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. Your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. The Royals is our next one. It's at the O.co. Get a ticket in our value deck behind home plate. A grab bag of authentic prizes, a cheer card, and a $6 food and drink voucher, all for one great price. The best deal in Bay Area baseball is Comcast Sportsnet's Authentic Fan Friday. So be out at the Coliseum on Friday night for game 1 of the A's-Royals series. The A's were already in Kansas City early this year. Well, the Royals will make their only trip to the Coliseum.
Well, Drew Pomeranz says he's going to face Odor, who homered in the 5th, and this is a big one because it was an off-speed pitch, and it gave the Rangers a lead. And they would add a couple more. So Drew Pomeranz actually is well suited for this role, to come in and throw hard, air it out, good knuckle curveball, hard fastball, and gives him a chance to not hold anything back as he would possibly in the starting rotation.
First pitch to Odor is high with a fastball. So single, double, and that home run for Odor. He's also grounded to short. So 3 for 4. As his batting average up over 200. Joey Gallo will be next. And that one close outside, not by much. Pomeranz thought maybe it was a strike. The pitches on the corners tonight, well, sometimes it's been a wide strike, other times it has not.
Well, and that's really the question being presented to Phegley from Pomeranz, but about the location of the pitch, whether it was a strike or not.
So now Pomeranz behind in the count, 0-2.
Got to be careful here, and he's got to not hold anything back because he figures Odor is going to load up.
And that one's not close, and now it's 3-0. So Pomeranz maybe tried to overthrow that one a little bit.
Well, you got Odor, Gallo, Fielder. 3 lefties in succession. 1, 2, and 3. Started the game, of course, against the right-hander Chavez.
And that pitch is a bit high, and it's a 4-pitch walk to Odor. So back-to-back walks here in the 8th inning. And now things are getting interesting again. So Gallo will be the hitter, and Kurt Young's going to walk out. Well, it started with the Rua strikeout. Edward Mexica, he starts to throw. And you said it, Ray. Bob Melvin may use them all tonight. So the quick meeting comes to an end. Here's Gallo. Fielder's choice, fly out, double and a run scored, and a strikeout. So he's 1 for 4.
And if he swung as hard as he did on the 3-2, his last at bat, he's going to continue to swing hard. And 4 pitches thrown by Drew Pomeranz, all fastballs. And sometimes, again, when you're out of the strike zone, up in the zone, a curveball is a good pitch because it forces you to get down in the zone, to follow through. And I'm sure Gallo's thinking fastball over the middle of the plate, trying to throw a strike. There's
a
good
slider. Gallo had a huge swing.
Let's see how it got him down. That ball's down, and maybe that would be just enough to get the fastball down in the zone too. But I mean, that's big swing, head flying open. Now we could go back to the fastball, maybe with that curveball getting him down in the zone.
And a fastball right on the outside corner, and it's 0-2.
Well, perfect pitch after The big swing takes the fastball. Great location.
Oh-2 pitch, and Gallo lays off. But a good 0-2 by Palmer.
Yeah. Okay, we have said it, talked about it. Lefty on lefty, you throw it hard. You throw the curveball hard. You had the big swing by Gallo with the first curveball. But you throw it hard and maybe get a check swing, maybe get a swing and a miss on a bad pitch. Or a pitcher's pitch, which would be out of the strike zone.
And that one was a hanger. I would not throw that one again.
And that was not hard either. That was thrown slowly.
Kind of a roller.
And it was almost like a get-me-over curveball. And, you know, with the knuckle curveball, can he throw them hard? He did the one, the previous pitch that he bounced.
That was the one for him to hit. And he fouled it back. And the time Pomeranz goes with the fastball, it's off the plate. So the count even 2-2. The crowd tonight over 35,000 making some noise here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Chirinos, Odor are the runners. And a pitch, a swing and a miss. He struck him out with a fastball on the outside corner. So Gallo strikes out for the second time.
Again, great location away from him. Ball almost took off like a cutter. Ball ran away. And Cap, I think to your point about Moreland looked like he's looking change up a couple of bats ago. Gallo might have been thinking breaking ball again. Because he had a big swing on the one that he fouled back, but a little bit slow on that fastball, and maybe his bat speed is more suited for the off-speed pitch.
So Pomeranz not out of it yet. Here's Prince Fielder. He's 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. And a good breaking ball snaps right in there. And Fielder takes it 0-1. He's got 47 RBIs.
The outfield playing very, very deep. Stephen Vogt, the 51, just trailing Miguel Cabrera, but the outfielders are out there, but they are deep and trying to cut off any ball that may go to the gap. If it's there, Odor runs well at first base.
And another breaking ball, and Prince Fielder swings and misses, and it's 0-2.
On the hard knuckle curve, and after taking the first one, not surprised there, but this time thought he had a bead on it, broke sharply out of the strike zone. Be careful with the fastball away, which
Simeon really playing right behind Chirinos at second base. The 0-2 pitch is hit towards Sogard, who handles a tough hop throw to first, and they got him. What a job by Drew Pomeranz, and the Rangers do not score. 9th inning coming up, 8-6 A's.
The Billy Butler Country Breakfast Bowl. 15,000 fans will pick up the bowl courtesy of Xfinity. Sunday, June 28th. That's this weekend, this Sunday, when the A's play host to the former team of Country Breakfast, the Kansas City Royals. Get your tickets today by calling 877-493-BALL or logging on to athletics.com/tickets. So how about it? 18 Friday night.
Yep.
We got the Charlie O on Saturday with the Faith and Family following the game, and then Country Breakfast on Sunday with Kansas City Royals. And of course, they were so amicable over the weekend in Kansas City. A lot of friendships there. And nothing really happened. No bench clearing brawls.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Throwback. That's right. Throwback Saturday. That's right. Turn back the clock Saturday. So a lot of good things happening at the Coliseum this weekend, just as we're seeing tonight here in Arlington, Texas. This is the first game of this 3-game series, and it will seem like it's a week-long series.
So the new pitcher is Alex Claudio, sidewinding left-hander. Claudio 1-1 with a 3.07 ERA. As he faces Sogard, Zobrist, and Reddick. For the lefty specialist, I know watching him in his windup, that will not surprise you. There is room for those kind of guys. Good pitch there, 2-1 to Sogard. He was 1 for 3 with an RBI single, a walk, and a run score.
The games we referenced May 1st and 2nd. So it's the first two games of that series when the A's were here in May. That Claudio came in relief of Kobe Lewis. After Lewis just shut down the A's completely for 6 innings, Claudio came in and got 3 ground ball outs in the 7th, and then the A's scored 7 in the 8th. The next night, he gave up a 3-run home run to Stephen Vogt.
That's right.
That was Gallardo, and Stephen Vogt hit 2 home runs in the game. First ever multi-home run game for him. And of course, the A's won on Sunday to take the series. But you're right, Cock. After that, the Rangers took off, and
that was it.
They played well.
And a good pitch there. Floats in, catches the outside corner, 1 out.
Well, Sogard just said ball 3, but then Zobrist said home run on a 3-2 fastball from Kalen. That's a big one because that's the difference in the game right now. Into the bullpen of the Rangers. And Zobrist with his 5th home run of the season. His first one came against the Rangers opening night at the Coliseum against Gallardo in the first inning.
A little bit outside to Zobrist, who now hits from the right side. So Zobrist overall 2 for 3 with a walk. And he's got 13 hits in his last 30 at bats. Under that or over that, he's got 3 home runs and 10 RBIs during that stretch. 2-1 the count. Reddick to follow. That one hit into the A's dugout. Did it get anybody? Let's hope not. Some movement down there. Looks like everybody's smiling, so that's a good sign. This one is popped up, could be playable, and no. First row on the other side of the screen. Orioles beat the Red Sox 6-4. Tigers beat the Indians 7-3. It seems like the Tigers beat the Indians every time they play.
I think
they do.
I
don't know what the numbers are, but I know I have read a couple times where the Tigers just dominate the Indians.
Exactly.
That game in Cleveland. Astros 5, Angels nothing. Top of the 4th inning. In fact, we just knocked C.J. Wilson out of that game, so not a good start for Wilson. And the Astros with a 3-game lead over these Texas Rangers, 10 games over 500.
Claudio is ready, and here's his 2-2 to Zobrist. And it's hit hard, but Beltre on the backhand grabs it. And that's the second out. Make sure you join us tomorrow for Game 2 of this 3-game series. Kendall Graveman will face the left-hander Wandy Rodriguez. Our coverage begins at 4:30 with A's pregame live. And then remember, you get complete A's coverage every night on Sportsnet Central and CSNCalifornia.com. The home of A's baseball is Comcast Sportsnet. So that's tomorrow, and then we will have the game for you on Thursday as well. That'll be a simulcast with Vince Catroni. Coverage for that game starts at 11 a.m.
Not here.
Not here. Back in the Bay Area. And then back home to face those Royals. That's a nice. It's our first extended homestand of the year.
Right. With the Rockies and then the Mariners. So
10-game homestand. Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. Reddick pulls off that one a little bit, and the count is 0-2. Reddick tonight is 1 for 4. He singled in the 7th inning. And way off the plate. Major shift on for Reddick on the infield. And this one is skied in the air towards center. Martin drifts toward left center. He's got it, and that's a 3-up, 3-down inning for Alex Claudio. So bottom of the 9th coming up. It'll be Beltre, Moreland, and Andrus. 2-run lead for the A's.
A solo home run to left center field. 0-2 fastball in, and even bigger than that, the A's down a couple, and a bullet to straightaway center over Martin's head, scoring Davis and Billy Butler in front of him, and Josh Phegley would score on Marcus Simeon's double. So Josh Phegley, a big night tonight, trying to close it out with a 9th inning, 3 outs, and a win for the Athletics. Honda player of the game, Josh Phegley, very deserving. A big night for the A's catcher. Especially starting against the right-hander, Stephen Vogt, out for tonight. Sam Folds in left field.
So here's the first pitch to Beltre, up and away, ball 1. Beltre, Moreland, Andrus. There's your 3 hitters for the Rangers. Inside, 2-0. Beltre is 0 for 3 with a sacrifice fly. He did reach on an error and score in the 7th. A's with a 2-run lead. Bullpen trying to close it out.
And Moreland, the on-deck hitter, and As a result, Pomeranz starts this inning.
Good pitch there. Fastball at the knees. Beltre chats with Lance Barrett. Pomeranz, a great job getting out of the 8th inning. Coming in on Beltre, he just was able to get out in the front, roll it foul.
Well, that 2-0 fastball, that one of those gifts maybe down in the lower part of the strike zone, given to Drew Pomeranz, and then the good fastball inside. Beltre, big sac fly back in the 5th inning on an 0-2 fastball.
Kerr stays outside, and now full count.
Rare that he would back it up with another curveball, so that means Beltre can sit dead red, fastball, load up, and hopefully pops it up.
3-2 pitch, and he did just that. He had a big rip and fouled it. Mahika is ready out in the A's bullpen.
Fastball, and at least it was a strike off the mask of Josh Phegley, but good news, it was a strike. As much as you don't like to think about it, a walk to lead off an inning is not something you want to think about, and almost say rather have him hit the ball. At least if he puts the ball in play, there's a chance of it being an out.
Three-2 is lined to left, and that's a hit. Didn't think it was going to be easy, did we?
Nope.
So Beltre has his first hit tonight, and that'll bring up Moreland.
Well, it went back to fastball inside, but elevated it. But when you miss with a 2-2 curveball, you're pretty much telling the hitter that you're going to throw fastballs, and that's why the 2-2 pitch is so critical. And it really helps the hitter who's just coming back tonight, as Beltre has just come back, first game back, and he's taking a look, fastball, he gets it and he hits it.
And here's Moreland. Short lead for Beltre at first, and the pitch to Moreland. Swing and a miss on a high fastball. Moreland is 1 for 3.
After the first 2 curveballs to Prince Fielder, I think Moreland was maybe thinking curveball after he saw what Pomeranz did to Prince Fielder.
Outfield very deep. And a breaking ball that stays inside. Moreland watches it all the way. So it's been Chavez, Scribner, O'Flaherty, Rodriguez, and now Pomeranz. Swing and a miss. Fastball on the outer half, and it looks like Moreland pulled off that one.
Well, especially with a fastball outside, and Pomeranz throws hard, and that's why the location of the fastball outside to lefty is a very good one. And it's the same zone in which he threw to Beltre. Inside to Beltre, the right-hander, outside to the lefty, Moreland.
One-two pitch. Hit to Sogard. He spins out at second. Throw to first. Double play. A huge double play. 2 outs here in the 9th inning.
And there's your curveball, and Kivas, you said it best. Moreland is not running well. Hits this ball off the end of the bat and lumbering down the line, and Sogard catches it. Simeon takes the time, and a strong throw to first base, and Moreland could barely make it to first. Kind of feel badly for him, but in this case, happy that he was not able to run, because I don't know that it would have been a double play otherwise, because it was off the end of the bat, but plenty of time, and that is a huge double play.
So now Andrus steps in, and the first pitch in for a strike. So Drew Pomeranz trying to get the save, and what a save it would be. And it's an 0-2 now. You know, Ray, it's almost the save for the whole bullpen. You know?
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right, and it's a bullpen effort. You have to have it in confidence booster, as you said, and get through one more strike, one more out, and hopefully that would be the case.
0-2 pitch, another curve, but it's outside to Andrus. Andrus is 3 for 4 tonight, 2 doubles, a single, and 2 RBIs. Swing and a miss, and that's the ball game. What a job by Drew Pomeranz, his first career save. And when it's all said and done, Jesse Chavez gets the win. Good for him.
And Chichi Gonzalez gets the loss. I mean, who would have thought 12-out save, but that's what the A's did.
So it took 3 hours and 17 minutes in front of 35,889, and the A's win it. A's have now won 7 out of their last 9. 8-6 is the final. A's over the Rangers. You've been watching A's baseball on Comcast Sportsnet California. Don't go away. A's postgame live with Brody Brazil and Pip Roberts starts right now.